Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the Board of Select meeting. Today is August 15th. We'd ask everybody to rise for an invocation. Mr. Dawes, would you please?
Bear with me. Father God, creator of all, we come before you as your servants and the elected servants of the people. We thank you for the many blessings you have bestowed upon us and our community. My God, we acknowledge your presence and humbly ask you to guide our thoughts, actions, and decisions. We ask for an extra measure of wisdom, discernment, and understanding as we attend to the affairs of our community. We thank you, and we each pray to you in the manner and fashion we were taught. Amen.
Amen. Pledge allegiance.
To the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, well, we have a pretty full agenda tonight, so I'm going to do my best to get everybody out of here, and then the selectmen will probably have some things to go over. But, so it's a nice night, beautiful day, and so I want to get people out. So, with that being said, first order of business we are going to discuss tonight is the approval of the collective bargaining agreement with the town of Georgetown and the Call Firefighters Union. And we ask our attorney to step forward just in case there's any specific questions. Give you a little color. We've been working with the fire department for 10 months on this particular document. A lot of things have gone back and forth. There's been a lot of negotiation, and I think both sides have been very respectful. And I think the outcome is, again, something we can all be proud of, that we're continuing to move along with our fire department under a collective bargaining agreement that pays them fairly, a fair wage and fair benefits. So with that being said, Tim, if you want to add a little bit of
just a few more words. Thank you, David. Tim Zessin from KP Law. The town's Call Firefighters about a year ago voted to join a union and be represented by AFSCME Council 93. That sort of started off this process of negotiating a first contract. Negotiating a first contract, just for those of you unaware of how it works, can take a little bit of time. So it took about 10 months to reach a final contract with the union, but in the end, I think we've achieved a lot, mutual understanding of the working conditions and some of the things that they were concerned about. So overall, as David mentioned, it's been a very productive process. We've agreed tentatively, pending a vote tonight, on a wage scale that brings call firefighters up to what we believe is a fair market wage, and puts them in line with other firefighters around the area. So that's the meat of the contract. A lot of the other stuff simply formalizes procedures that have been in place for the last decade. So assuming the board votes to approve it tonight, a copy will be made available to the public.
Okay, so I would ask this board if there's any specific questions or any specific comments you'd like to make in regards to the contract.
I would.
Mr. Fowler.
I'd just like to say that this is a big change for me. It's been difficult for me, and I know that our fire department has been going through changes over the years. Sometimes we accept the change. We've gone from volunteerism to call fire department, and it's basically also just the budget-wise, I believe it's about the same, correct? It's just moving things around in the way they get paid. But we don't know where this is gonna go into the future, and it's a little difficult to accept, but we certainly want, as Tim had mentioned, we want the working conditions and everything to certainly be favorable. So I'm glad it's all working out.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments from the board? If none, I would entertain a motion to approve the collective bargaining agreement from the town of Georgetown and the Call Firefighters Union, AFSCME Council 93, Local 939, as presented.
So moved.
Second. All right, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion on the motion? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, unanimous. Well, there we go. So that's a big accomplishment, and we're, again, like I said, proud to have this document in place, and we have a 3-year agreement. So, again, another good thing done, put in the done column. All right, so Tim, thank you. thank you
Thank you.
Thank you, Tim.
for being here. Next thing I'd like to do is bring up the school building committee representatives. We have Carl and Ellie. Why don't you come on up? Just give us a, we had asked at the last meeting, last time we got together, when we got back together as a board, that we would want some update on where we are with the entire landscaping issue and fields issue. So take it away and give us an update.
I'm gonna let Carl do it, because he's been handling the scheduling.
I think, in light of your full agenda, we can keep it brief, but it's a positive report since we last met with your group and a couple times with the building committee. We basically read the riot act to the contractor and his subcontractors about the condition of things and demanding that he meet certain conditions, give us a schedule, give us a pledge about having contingency plans if things shouldn't happen, and give us weekly reports with photographs of the progress and so forth. And I'm happy to report that they've met all those conditions. They have given us a schedule. They have, and it's been reviewed by our landscape architects to their satisfaction. They have performed a series of functions up there, starting with watering. If any of you have been by there, you'll see all the temporary watering that's in place. They put water bags for all the trees. They've spread herbicide to kill weeds in areas of the fields. They've reseeded the athletic fields and also aerated them as well. I've gone by there a couple times in the last couple weeks myself. Everything is very green now. It looks much better than most of our lawns, I think, in that sense. And they've going to continue. They have a schedule for the next few weeks as well. So we're happy to see that there's been action there and follow through, and we have something to measure them against, with a schedule that takes us all the way through October. The tentative date right now on reviewing and accepting the grass areas is the end of September. They will have some issues with trees that we'll look at in October, and there's always a 1-year warranty period on trees too, so any trees or shrubs that may look okay now, even if we accept them, if they die within a year, they're still obligated to replace those too. So the town is protected that way.
On behalf of the building committee, Carl also sent a letter to our contractor, Brait, notifying him that the building committee put him on notice that should there be any issues, we would take any necessary action, including or up into including notifying his bond counsel.
So my question before I open up to the board would be, so is the school building committee satisfied where we are at this point?
Yes, they are fulfilling every obligation that they told us they would in the time that they said they would. I've been going up myself to make sure things are.
So when we put them on notice, that stays, basically as, until the project is finished, that, hey, you're kind of on probation in a way, that we've notified them and that, we weren't happy, and we need to make sure that the plan continues. If it doesn't, then we'll take that next step.
Right.
Okay.
And one of the things that the contractor has done is he put in place a backup landscaper who can start on a moment's notice if the subcontractor we're using right now fails to live up to his obligation.
Okay. All right. So I'd open it up to the board for any comments or questions. I know that, this was a pretty heated discussion the last time we did this. So I would open up to any questions.
Yeah, if I could, Mr.
Steve,
Chair.
sure.
Have we resolved the issues with the flowering, I don't know what you call it, in the drainage part? We thought it was gonna look a lot nicer.
Yes.
Like
Yeah,
wild
yes.
look or something.
We've gone over those areas. Several of those areas in the slopes and in the drainage areas have been accepted now,
Okay.
and they're now being maintained by the town in terms
Okay.
of cutting, and they don't need cutting all that often, up to maybe 3 times a year.
Okay.
But the materials have been accepted in those areas.
Okay.
It's mainly the lawn areas and the athletic fields that are still, being worked on by the contractor.
Gotcha. Okay.
Any other questions? All right, so, thank you, and maybe you want to check in at our next meeting, which is September 12th. Maybe just, we'll put you on the agenda for a 5-minute, 10-minute update, just like you did tonight. Because we, again, being, Board of Selectmen, we're behind you in this, and then whatever action, if we have to take action, we will. Okay?
Be happy
All right.
to.
Very good, thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks very much. Okay, so, next order of business that I'd like to, bring forward is the Board of Assessors. So, I know we have a joint meeting with the Board of Assessors on an appointment, so, Board of Assessors wanna come forward? How we doing?
Good, good yourself, Chairman.
All right, so, I will defer to you guys on
Refer
this.
to me, my name is Dave Bogdan, I live at 62 Thurlow Street for the record. I'm now commonly the chairman of the Board of Assessors. We had a change of seats down below where our assessor manager left, Jay Ferrara, and hence we have now appointed Tom Barabee, who used to be on the board, and that left a vacant spot where he was just elected back in May. So we're looking to fill that vacancy now. So myself and Red looked around, scratched our heads, and tried to think of someone else would be a good fit for the board to fill out the remaining term. And we found found Mike Anderson here. So we brought him in, we talked to him, he says he thinks it's a good fit for him, and now we're coming to the Board of Selectmen to see if they had any other candidates we didn't know offhand, and if not, we'll have a joint approval if they go with that. But both Red and I are on board for appointing Mike Anderson to fill the remainder term.
Okay. So it would be if he would fill the unexpired term and then have to run again? How would that work procedurally?
Correct.
And run at the next annual.
Right, so next election in May, Mike would have to run for that unexpired term?
Yes.
And then any other terms
Yeah.
that would come up
Yeah,
too?
any
So
term.
it could be,
He
essentially
would
it could be
2
two
years.
people, right?
He would serve until the next election.
Right,
Right.
right.
And
And then,
then if he wanted to remain on the board, he'd have to sign up for the election. But it would only be for the 2 years remaining in Mr.
Unexpired term,
Berubis' term.
right, and then there may be another term coming up
So
too,
there'd
so
be 2
essentially
seats.
there'd be 2 people.
There would be 2
Right.
seats, one would be a 3-year term, one would be a 2-year term.
So you would have to designate that before you run, which one you're running for?
Yes.
It wouldn't be the
I think
person
you
that
just
gets the
did that
next
to the
amount
Board
of
of
votes.
Selectmen also, correct,
Right.
wasn't it, yeah.
Right,
Unexpired.
unexpired
So
term.
Same thing,
Right,
correct.
okay,
Yep.
good.
So it'd be good until,
And you're a member, obviously, three members on your board, right?
correct.
Okay, so you have a quorum here tonight, so, in order to
Yes.
vote. So, I would just give you a minute, Mike, to, give us the reasons why you'd wanna be on the board.
I want to help the town any way I can. It seems kind of like a low-key board, which I am a town employee as well, so to help out and, still remain in my role as a town employee.
Mike would have to be, once the board, if the appointment goes through tonight, and then Mike's position would have to be named as a special municipal employee.
Right. Okay, do we have to do that in the motion when that comes, or no?
We'd do it at the next meeting.
Okay, okay. All right, well, that was my question. There's no conflict of interest, where, he's.
Not as long as we name him a special municipal employee.
Okay, good. All right. Any, questions from the board, Selectmen?
Any special training that Mike's gonna have to go through, or?
There is a training through the Department of Revenue. He doesn't have to go through it this first year. I guess it's only when he's elected. So this year, he might say he'd just be learning as it goes. But if he decides to run for a seat next year, there is, you have to go through the state certification. Department of Revenue puts on a 1-week course. And you actually have 2 years to fulfill that from the date of election. So it's out there. But they have one in Amherst, they have one in Boston, there's a couple places around they put it on. For all the towns throughout the Commonwealth, for all the newly elected board members to come in. Yeah.
Any other questions?
As Dave said, did we receive any letters from anybody else that was interested or anything?
We did not.
Okay.
No, I had heard people were going to, but they never did.
Any other questions? All right, well, from a procedural perspective, if, obviously your board's in agreement sounds like our board would be in agreement. We just would vote they vote first, then we vote, Mike?
No, you all vote together.
All together. Okay, so I would entertain a motion to appoint Mike Anderson to the unexpired term that's open, obviously, on the Board of Assessors.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All right, so there's a roll call vote because it's a duel, or is it just,
He has to receive 5 votes.
5 votes? Okay. So, everybody, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. Congratulations, Mike.
Thank you.
And,
Yeah, thank you.
and I'm sure you'll do a great job for us, so.
All right, thank you very much.
Do you ever leave Georgetown? That's the question I want to know.
Not
Do you
anymore.
ever get out of town at all?
I do.
All right, well, good luck.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jim.
Okay. Any other departments in town? Mr. Durkey, do you want to step up for a quick update? You're gonna be here for a while, so. Okay, so Pete's here to give us a quick update on where we are with Elm Street. Pete and I briefly talked at a mushball game while he was getting up at bat, I think.
Yeah.
While I was umpiring, about where we was doing with Elm Street. And so give us an update of where we are.
The gas company started their work on Elm Street Saturday. Their work's gonna take about 3 months. So I've already sent out a message throughout the town to let people know that if they don't need to drive on Elm Street, they shouldn't. If people live on Elm Street or if they have to get to the school, they'll be able to get to, either one. But if you don't need to be on Elm Street, don't drive on Elm Street, because that way there will make it quicker for the people doing the work to get the job done. So they understand what time school starts, what time school gets out. They're gonna put a big push on for the next couple of weeks before school starts to try to get past the driveway of the school. But they still will have to come back and do all the tie-ins to everybody's house that has gas now. So, Mike just got back from vacation, I just got back from vacation. Mike and I haven't even met, but I wanna talk to him about putting this job out to bid, so we can, have somebody bid on the project and get that underway. We may not be able to start any work this year, but it will, first thing in the spring, we'll be able to get going on it. And we could work on areas away from the school. There's plenty of drainage work that can be done that's on Elm Street, but not near the school, that, won't open up, they won't close down 2 lanes, so there'll be 1 lane closed, and they'll be able to do drainage work and then hop over to the other side and do the other side, so.
I think the biggest concern, at least from, everybody that I talk to, is how we're gonna handle the school traffic,
Yep.
obviously.
Well, there'll be, met with the gas company today. Right now, there's 2 police officers each day. They wanna put a 3rd on for the first week or 2 of school, just to make sure there's no problems.
Okay.
So if they have to have one of the police officers go to the end of the road to direct traffic, they'll do that. So,
So are we coordinated with, obviously, with the chief? on this
I
particular
talked
issue?
to, one of his lieutenant sergeants today that, deals with the detailing. So he'll, he knows about it, and, it shouldn't be a problem in there, so,
We definitely wanna be coordinated here,
yeah.
Well,
chief.
if I could add, Mr. Chairman, also, on the 29th, the opening of school, I'm coordinating with the proposed position too, to be handling a traffic control point at East Main and Elm Street, which will be a permanent solution to some of our other traffic woes, in addition to the pay detail by the gas company. So yes, it will be a very coordinated effort, similar to when we closed Central Street. This, though, will be a bit more consuming for repetitive traffic for our school district. So I have a meeting with the superintendent on Wednesday concerning a couple of issues. One of those is this particular project. And obviously Pete and I speak daily anyway, so it will be as coordinated as it can be.
Maybe bring Pete in on that discussion with Carol also.
He's going to be.
You can, okay, good.
Him and I've already decided.
Yeah, all right, good. All right, so any questions from the Board of Selectmen?
Pete, what, so we got the gas company in for the next 3 months, and then what are we expecting after that?
They could do maybe some work this, once we put it out to bid and we have a contractor that can do the work, he may be able to go in and do some work before winter, and then he could start right in on the spring, and, you know, when we put this out to bid, they'll know that there's a school in session, and their time to do most of the work is gonna be in the summertime. But they can do work to, you know, on either end, it's where the drainage is mostly. There's a little bit of drainage at the end of the driveway, but, you know, near the end of Central Street, they could, you know, design that intersection to plan. They could put in the structures that have to be put in for the drainage on that end, and, you know, they could do that while school is in session, no problem.
And expected completion, would it be the end of next summer?
I wish, but I don't think so.
You don't
So-
think so?
No. It, you know, it depends how fast they can get the drainage in, and then there's cut and fills throughout the road, so that doesn't mean just go in and reclaim the road like we did Tenney Street and regrade it. You have to, you know, reclaim the road and then either dig it down or lift it up. You know, the gas company has the plans, they got the plans today, so they know where to put their gas line if they have to go lower in some areas, cause we're taking out some of the roadway. So that's gonna save, this project a lot of money, the way that it's, you know, coincide with the gas company.
Okay.
So the engineer's sending out a surveyor tomorrow to mark out points, so the gas company knows where the structures are gonna be going, so they can make sure that their structures are either going above or below, or away from our structures. So, and that's why we needed the gas company in the first place, was to move structures. I mean, to move gas lines around structures, and that would've cost over $100,000 to do that. Now it's not costing anything, we're getting a whole new gas line down Elm Street. It's just putting the project off a little bit, that's all it's doing, so.
So,
I'm sorry,
yeah.
was that $100,000 already included in the initial budget for that job?
Yep.
It is, so
Yep.
same, okay.
so when is the estimated completion date roughly? Probably next fall?
You know, if we put it out to bid this fall, depending on how much work they get done this fall, and then they're gonna start in the spring early, they were talking about a year. The engineer was talking about it would take a year to finish this project,
Okay,
so.
so we're looking at roughly fall of 2017.
Yeah.
Okay. And with as much non-disruption, I would say, of the local
Yeah.
residents?
Well, they
in
will
that street?
do you know, anytime that they have to close the road down will be when school's closed. You know, they'll have a calendar of when there's no school, and they'll do, if they have to be in the roadway, and, you know, we'll notify the residents of that street of, you know, the residents will always be able to get to their driveway, always.
Okay.
If they have to put road plates across to get to their driveway, they'll always be able to get to their driveway.
Right.
So,
Any other questions for Pete?
Peter, what time do they start work in the morning?
7?
Is it 7? Is that something that's been spoken about with the residents around there? Is
Well, you can start work in town at 7, so that's what time we usually start. And they're gonna work late, and they're gonna work Saturdays, the gas company.
You're gonna maybe wanna get out the phone call.
I sent out a phone,
Phone call.
I think it was Saturday or Sunday.
But did it spell out the times and
Yep.
everything?
It was gonna be 7 to 5, Monday through Saturday.
has there been any pushback?
And I doubt, I haven't heard any messages today on my phone. The gas company, I doubt's gonna work till 5 o'clock on Saturday, so it'll be an early day on Saturday, so it might be.
Well, I would just keep in mind, I mean, these same residents had to endure, you know, the construction of the school, you know, and all those
Yep.
trucks going by all the time, so I'd wanna make sure we were, you know, conscious of, you know, what their concerns were, you know, in terms of time and interruption of their lives,
Yep.
you know, when this project goes on, so.
And as a suggestion, maybe isolate them as a group for additional phone calls rather than the entire town.
Yep.
Keeping them up to date on the project, I think that would be
Yep.
um,
You know, as of right now, they're gonna start on the East Main Street side.
Yep.
They were talking about they could do between 800 and 1,000 feet a day. It's 1,700 feet to the entrance to Pembroke. So they're hoping they can get that done, but it all depends on how thick the hot top is. You know, I told them it's between 4 and 6 inches. We've done some digging out there. They have to do some work at the entrance to tie into East Main Street with the new gas line, so.
All right, any other questions for Pete? All right, thanks, Pete.
Yep.
Thank you,
And
Peter.
we'll maybe our next meeting, you can just swing by. We'll play it by ear, we'll see how
Okay.
that goes, okay? All right, thank you. Okay, next on the agenda, I think we'll bring up the chief to talk about Brook Street. Chief?
Him too.
Oh, Peter too? All right, that's good. Good, Peter too. All right, so Brook Street returning to two-way traffic. Give us a little color, chief, and give us the reasons behind the change.
Well, I don't have the specific dates as to when Brook Street became a one-way street. I mean, I do recall I was on the police department at the time, and there were various reasons why there were residents who were complaining about the volume of traffic and the like. The thing is, though, is every single street in our town is in the same condition today because of the influx of the traffic increases in our community. And by us continually blocking roadways and making roadways one-ways and not using our tributary roads, we're forcing all of our traffic out onto the same 4 streets, hence the issues that we have today. In addition to that, Peter's plan and the rehab of Elm Street will include redoing the intersections on both ends as well as reclaiming Brook Street. So it can be, and I'll let him speak in his role as the highway surveyor, but it's my understanding and my review of the plan to make the road wider than it is today, mark it appropriately, so that during the influx of rush hour and the like, that we can use one of these tributary roads to fix some of the intersection issues at Elm and East Main and Elm and Central Street. Central Street is also going to be repaired where East Street and Nelson Street connect. It's a 5-way intersection. It's a very dangerous intersection. It's one of the most dangerous intersections in our community. And we need to continue, and I've also reduced my feelings to writing with the planning board concerning new subdivisions and developments, that we need to connect our tributary roadways. None of us want traffic on our side streets. We all live somewhere. But what's happened is everything is dumping out into those same 4 roadways, and you see what we have. So that's the reason why. I think the historical perspective of Brook Street is a very quiet street. There are not many residents on that road, but it would alleviate some of our traffic during our peak hours, especially with the opening and the closing of the school district. Not necessarily everyday cut-through traffic. Elm Street already experiences that. But the intersection in its current form is dangerous. There are people continually violating the one-way. We have to enforce that, so that takes up time of enforcement in some of our busier areas. And to be very frank, a lot of our residents are violating that one-way road. And there's a reason for it. It's because there is a convenience factor if in fact it was 2-way. And the highway surveyor and I have met at length on that, met with the newly formed or regenerated traffic committee. And that has been on, and that has been on my list with the traffic committee since 2010 when they stopped meeting. As part of our plan to open up some of our roadways and fix these intersections, that we have these Y intersections that should be 90-degree Ts, and to slow traffic down and to make it more fluid in flow.
And any discussion with the people that live on that street?
I have had none.
None.
I know that when we had a meeting upstairs here with the people that live on Elm Street, and
Yep,
Brook
I
Street
remember.
was included.
Yep.
And we showed them the plan that we were gonna make Elm Street at Brook Street a T intersection instead of the Y intersection, because right now, if you leave the Pembroke School and head toward Central Street,
Yeah.
you can turn, well, you can't turn on the Brook Street, but the way it was, you could come around that corner and clip somebody just walking on the side of the road, because it's that way. But if you make it a T intersection, they'll be able to see, when they turn around the corner, plus they'll have to slow down to turn onto Brook Street. The other reason that I'd like to do this is because the end of Elm Street at Central Street, when we reconfigure the intersection, even the way it is right now, if a bus has to go that way and has to turn back toward the center of town, they're going into the other lane of traffic to turn onto Central Street.
And I think too, to further add, on the central side of Brook Street, if you notice where the one-way sign is, there are people who live on Brook Street who have the convenience of it being 2-way. So if the street is going to be a one-way street, then make it a one-way street, so that if it's configured as such, it can be enforced as such. And secondly, if it's going to be a 2-way street, make the entire street a 2-way street. We have the same problem on Searle Street. We had the same problem on Clark Street, where you had a one-way street, but some folks that lived on one end, it was a 2-way street. So
Yeah.
is it a 2-way street or is it a one-way street?
Yeah.
You know?
All right, any questions from the board?
Any planned signage at either end of that extension? Like
There
a
would-
stop sign or whatever?
Oh, there would definitely be. I know on Elm Street that it's already planned for new signage, and we could easily put new signage up on the Central Street end.
I mean, I think the roadway is deplorable too, the fact that it's going to be reclaimed. And, for pedestrian traffic, that circle from Central to Elm in East Main is a walking track for our residents. A lot of people walk down that Brook Street. It's not very well passable for pedestrian traffic. It's not marked. I think it would enhance the roadway, not necessarily, defeat the purpose of the one-way, but to fix a roadway that needs to be fixed, and to have the appropriate signage. There is no appropriate signage or markings or delineation of lane or fog, nothing out there.
Yeah.
It's just a bumpy old country road.
Plans for a sidewalk or anything, or
As of right now, no. There are wetlands.
right on that side?
All right.
Mr. Chair.
Yeah,
Steve.
so, are we planning to vote on this tonight, is it?
Yeah, unless
It's not
it's,
like we have
unless,
to make it a
Well,
two-way street now. It'd be nice if you voted, but we don't have to do it right away. I'd rather wait till that intersection was reconfigured on Elm Street.
okay. We'd probably do a
So
public
my-
hearing.
Yeah, so my point would be, we just got this tonight about the history of it, so I'd like to read over that.
Okay.
And then, as you mentioned, if we can have the people on the street give some feedback, that'd be great as well, yeah.
Well, I would venture to bet the people on the street are gonna wanna keep the road a one-way. But I think as our community is growing, and we're attempting to enhance Elm Street with a multi-million-dollar project, that we include Brook Street, and we include these intersections, including Nelson and East Street.
So Chief, your expectation of us tonight was to vote on this tonight,
Well,
or a future vote on this particular item?
Well, for me personally, I mean, it doesn't affect me personally or operationally on the PD, but going before the traffic committee, coming before the board, working with the highway surveyor, we know process. And if we're putting a job out to bid in the fall, and that bid includes specific design of an intersection, and then it's not included in that plan, I mean, it just seems to me that we either move forward with something, or we leave it as it is. Because we'll have to come back here in September and talk about this again. I don't, if we need a public hearing, then let's do the public hearing, but we need to get the issue addressed so that when it goes out to bid,
Right.
we have the ability to address it.
Plan on putting out that bid
This fall.
this fall? So we can schedule for Monday, September 12th, we can schedule a public hearing to discuss this particular issue? Unless the traffic committee has already done that, so that would be my
Well-
question.
If I can speak, do we need I asked that this be put on, at this point, mainly for discussion. This comes from the traffic study committee. I did ask Janet today, and she was very good at finding some history on it, that we now have a little something that we can look over for some history as to perhaps why and how it got that way. I haven't had time to read it.
Right.
But, yeah, it came up. It's felt by our chief of police and highway surveyor that it should be returned to a two-way street. It would alleviate some of the traffic problems down there, so I think that at some point, we definitely need to move it forward. I'm not, do we need a public hearing? I'm not sure. Do the people, I think we can have the public hearing, but it just, I think it more comes down to what's best for all the residents of Georgetown, for one thing. But I mean, I guess what's the rules of a public hearing? We don't have to notify everybody, I don't think, like some of the other boards and committees. I think we just declare a hearing. I mean, there's no cost associated, or,
That's correct. There's no,
yeah.
we don't have to notify,
Mail and-
you don't have to notify anybody.
Right.
Frankly, posting it on the agenda is
Notif-
considered notice sufficient.
We could use that telephone system to let the residents of Brook Street know that we're gonna be discussing it that night. I mean, I would think they deserve that, but
Well, actually, we did have an update on the Georgetown Connect under the town administrator's report. And the
Later on,
reason
yes.
why we're doing this update is because the connection rate has been abysmal. I think we're at just over 20% contacts. So we need to get some more publicity out there and get people signing up. it's not working. I think after our initial try, when we told everybody it was for emergency purposes, and we were using it for public announcements, people then got removed from the system.
If I could just continue a little bit, at the traffic study committee, we got started, we're meeting again tomorrow at 8:30. We couldn't get out of the past. And there was a lot of feelings that things got moved to the Board of Selectmen and got dropped. And so this came right here, at our next meeting, and somehow I think we need to move it forward and not, at least we need to make a decision on it to
Well,
move forward.
Is their recommendation to go ahead and have us vote on it tonight?
Well, let's see, you've got two of the three here. Did we make a we made a recommendation to move it here tonight. I don't know whether we formally voted that it should be
I
two-way.
think it needs to be voted on by the selectmen, that's the process.
Okay.
So it wasn't, we didn't discuss it, we just discussed that we wanted to talk about it and, brought it up to the selectmen's, and we're gonna be doing the work on Elm Street. And when we make that intersection to a T intersection, it will be a safer street.
No, absolutely.
Well, I think too, Mr. Chairman, if I may, if you look at the end of Brook Street, on the central side end, you have a Y intersection, and you have a portion of Brook Street that's two-way. So when you make that a T intersection, will that roadway where people go to turn in, will it be marked just for those two driveways so that they can turn in to Brook Street if it's a one-way? Or are you gonna make the entire roadway from, you look confused, but if you look at where Brook Street enters Central Street, a portion of that roadway is two-way at the beginning. But the thing is though, the people who live there, those two driveways, get to utilize that as a two-way, but the people up the street don't. So when you make that a T intersection, how are you gonna sign that? How is it gonna be signage? We had the same problem on Clark
A
Street.
stop sign, and then it's got a do not enter sign.
Yeah, that's right, exactly. So we had the same problem on Clark Street, and when that went before Urban Systems, we had a one-way that was a portion up the street because of people's driveways. A road is either one way or it's not.
Yeah.
It's that simple. And if you delineate it one way, those folks that pull out of their driveway will have to turn left only, just like everybody else does. And it's an inconvenience. It doesn't really make much sense because just like when we come out of our high school, the public library is right there. It's 800 feet away. But after 4 o'clock, you gotta go out there into the jungle and try to get there. If you go out of Brook Street, out of that driveway, and the road is right there, you're gonna have to take a left and go all the way around. There's no logic to it. And try to enforce that as the police. It's not enforceable to sit there and try to fix that and meander through that. So that's the reason why I brought it forward.
Steve,
No, I can appreciate that, it's just from a procedure standpoint, I guess. If the traffic committee, that's what you're here to do, right? So if you've met and you've all come to a conclusion, you've done your due diligence, and you make a recommendation of the board, to me, I would say, okay, well, that's it seems like you went through the process, and I would be in favor of it, as opposed to what's happening tonight is we're getting a letter, we weren't sure if we were discussing it or not, or voting, so that, I kind of stop at that point and say, okay, so what, is it something that everyone is?
We'll get that tomorrow.
Okay.
All right, so I think, so
That's
from
really all,
a
yeah,
process perspective,
Yeah.
why don't we have this on for a vote at our next meeting?
Yeah.
This way it gives a little more time for the board to do their own due diligence, gives you another meeting to talk with traffic, and then we'll make a recommendation.
Are we officially gonna notify those people on that street?
I think we should make the attempt, in all honesty, just to let them know that this is coming.
I agree.
It looks like it, if we had to take a straw poll vote, it would pass with no problem, so, we just want a little bit more time, so maybe we do, knock on the two, was it two houses, chief?
No, there's 4 houses.
Maybe Peter knocks on the door, or you knock on the door and say, hey, look, this is what's
Well,
gonna happen.
Here's the thing, and I don't like to combine the judiciary, the legislative, and the executive branch of our government. When I push forward legislation similar to our latest debacle with the hunting regulation, just to fix a problem. People think that it's the law that I want. It has nothing to do with me. It has to do with what I'm charged to do and enforce the law. The judiciary and the executive branch makes those decisions, and then they tell me to enforce it. I've given you my opinion on it, in that it's not enforceable on that end of the street. And if you reconfigure it in Pete's plan, the plan that I saw, it will make it even more complicated. That was my reasoning for it, just from a practical standpoint. If people want Brook Street one way it is.
Well, I think in terms of the whole design issue, that it should be.
It's problematic if you look at the design.
But it's just a matter of notifying those people that, hey,
Sure.
this is what's going on, so.
But I just think, me
Not police, but maybe Pete knocks on the door and says.
publicly
hey,
telling people that I'm looking to change, their roadway, it's not what I'm doing. I'm bringing forward a problem that has been identified, and we need to fix it.
Well, Pete, can you do that?
Or we could send a letter to their house
Send a
and
letter?
just let,
I just feel like,
you know, just to
Absolutely.
let.
one day
let
they
them know.
wake up and it's a two-way street, they're gonna be
No,
like,
no,
what's
no.
going on?
No,
You
nothing
know,
wrong with that.
I think we owe that
Nothing
to
wrong with
them.
that.
Cause they'll be the first ones running it.
But I think timing's important, because we have our bids,
Right.
we have our project.
Explain the
and-
process. I think a letter from the highway surveyor would work, and then
Well, are they gonna be coming to this meeting?
that's up to them to do. We're looking to
Because it
do
might
this.
be better from the town administrator that he sends a letter that we're gonna be talking about this at the
That's
next
fine.
selectmen's meeting, and
That's fine. I don't have a problem with that, as long as the rest of the board doesn't, no problem with that.
No, that's fine.
I'd expand it to include Elm Street,
Yeah.
because they're gonna be impacted as well.
It's fine.
It's a good idea.
That's a good idea. I mean,
Do
maybe we.
we-
Okay, Jerry.
Okay,
Yeah, yeah.
going forward also, time-wise, do we see a problem on when we turn it one way? I mean, would we wanna do that right now with the Y intersection there?
No.
That's what
No,
you're
no,
saying?
no.
We would wait
we
until,
would wait till the.
until construction, so we.
It has to be configured properly, and the road has to be reclaimed.
That's my basic
Additionally,
question.
looking forward with planning, that there are more subdivision plans with regard to the west side of Brook Street. There's housing going up behind Chaplain Hill and so forth. There's entry and egress. The plans that I've read and had to comment on concerning connecting our tributary roadways may have a direct impact on that intersection as well, if in fact Brook Street becomes part of that new 45 house subdivision, or whatever the number is. So the predictive planning of what's going on in these intersections isn't just for today, it's for tomorrow too.
Exactly.
And
Alright.
If I can just continue a
Sure.
little bit. So, on an enforcement-wide issue, it wouldn't hurt if we changed the one-way to one-way on the whole street at this point, with the intention of going back to two-way when the Elm Street project is done.
I don't understand that. Is it gonna be a
What you're
two-way
saying-
or a one-way?
What I'm saying is we could continue that one-way right down to Central Street at this point.
And I think
Which
that
would make it,
it would have to be configured appropriately, correct.
Issue and this and that, so we
Right.
could do that at this point with the intention of putting it back to two-way in the future when the Elm Street project goes through. So would that be of any help to you enforcement-wise, or would you just suggest we
Well,
leave it all alone until?
Yeah, I would just think that if you're looking at reclaiming and reconfiguring roadways, that we look at the big picture and we ensure that what was good, what year is the letter?
2004.
2004, when all this came about. And it's now 2016. Moving forward, it's gonna be 2017 when Elm Street is done. Traffic has exponentially increased, we all know that. Flows are different. The grade configuration's different at the school. I mean, there's a lot of things to look at. So I think that,
Yeah, I think it's just a matter of being transparent and making sure that people just don't
I don't-
wake up and all of
absolutely.
a
I
sudden
mean-
their street's changed.
Yeah.
To give them the opportunity to
Mhm.
be here. So for the next meeting, Mike, we just wanna put out a notice to Elm Street and Brook Street residents that we're gonna be discussing this issue. We're not probably gonna take any action until, we go out to bid, right? Because if we make it now, it
No, we're not
changes.
gonna do any action until we do the construction.
Right, that's right. So that's, the
I
actual
don't,
vote
I don't
is
think
a
it's
ways
safe as
away.
it is now.
Right, because if we take a vote tonight, that changes the street. We don't wanna change that
Oh, but you
street.
could put
I
an
like Gary's
effective date on
idea,
it, you know?
is make it a one-way street completely now. And then, when the construction is done, we open it up to
Well,
two-way.
I think the reason that's a bit problematic too is because of the configuration at the end of the road.
Is it?
The end of the road has one of those infamous Ys, and where the driveways are hitting
It's gonna be
Brook Street,
confusing.
it's confusing.
Yeah.
We would have to do some type of roadway work down there if you're gonna do that. I mean, a portion of why it was configured the way it was is because of those Y intersections, and they need to be taken out of the mix, totally.
All right, well, I think from a process.
Leaving it
perspective-
alone right now until your project is bid and you put pencil to paper.
Well, that doesn't necessarily have to be on our next agenda then. So when we get closer to the point where we are going to send everything out, probably the second meeting in September. We have 2 meetings planned for September? All right, so at the second meeting in September, that's when we would tell everybody we're gonna discuss
I mean, the
it. We
reclaiming
may
of
not
the
take
road,
a
the width
vote.
of the road and things
Right,
like that.
We may not
will-
take a vote, but
will
we'll take the
come into
vote when
play.
we actually go out to bid, right, when construction starts, rather.
Okay.
All right, let's do it, let's handle it that way. If everybody's in agreement, we good?
Yep.
All right. All right, guys,
Thank you.
thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, guys.
All right, couple of things. Who's waiting for what? So that I can get people out.
I'm waiting for a permit for, the St. Mary's.
Oh, St. Mary's, come on up, come on up. So,
Good evening, my name is Carol McManus, and I'm one of the co-chairs of this fundraiser.
okay, Carol, you an address in town?
It would be under St. Mary's,
Okay,
which is in Andover Street. It would be right in the church hall,
okay. Comedy night,
Georgetown.
okay. Well, let me defer to Janet. All paperwork is in, Janet, and taken
Yeah,
care of?
she has a check she was gonna give us
I
tonight.
have a check for $25 for the license.
Okay, good.
I did ask the chief, I did have on here police detail required, but he said he would not require that.
No
so we
required detail. Okay,
took that out.
all right. Any questions from the board? This is pretty standard, 1-day liquor license for an event, charitable event, so.
We've done this before, right?
This is our first time we've had a comedy night.
Oh.
This is,
What I
we've
mean,
had
fun.
auctions before, and we've just changed the menu to a comedy night to try to make more money, because this is for all our charities for the whole year. We give the money up to.
All right, any specific questions for the applicant?
Yeah, just, you've got your dates right again, now this is November 4th,
Yes, it is.
2016, 7 to 10 p.m., okay.
Yes. It's a
Okay.
Friday night.
Friday night, okay.
Yes.
Just trying to get you a little.
Yeah.
Getting you some
He's
advertising.
he's trying to advertise for you. Do we know who's gonna be there? Is it, who have you partnered with for the, is
Where,
it
Paul,
Giggles?
no, he
Paul
does,
D'Angelo?
Paul Gilligan, yes.
Paul Gilligan,
He's
okay.
coming, and then a couple of other comedians.
Okay,
And we're just gonna be serving beer and wine,
okay, very good.
and have a raffle, 50-50, and a basket raffle also. And we're all invited to come.
All right. All right,
It's
so,
a $15.
all right. Anybody wanna make a motion to, do this?
Mr. Chair, I'd make a motion to approve the 1-day liquor license request for St. Mary's Women's Club for a comedy night on November 4th, 2016, from 7 to 10 p.m.
Second. We have a second? Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion on the motion? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
All right.
Aye.
Thank you.
Okay, motion carries, thank you. Have a nice evening,
You-
and good luck.
Mail you the license.
okay.
Guys in the back. Transfer station, okay, so we can handle the transfer station next. Comes the license here. Okay, so, please step forward, state your name and address for the record, please.
Greg Mello, 7 Canterbury Drive, Georgetown.
Jason Mello, 55 Spofford Street, Newburyport.
Great. So, I know that everybody has this, and from what I understand, I've read it through. Looks very similar, or if not, just a carbon copy of what we had in place before.
Correct.
The annual fee's $40,000, Mike, do I have that right?
Yes, we, because it's a lease of town land, we had to go through the 30B process.
Okay.
And it was bid out, it was a public bid. It's a unique property, And the Mellows were the only respondents to the public bid. And we did get approval from town meeting just in the spring for a 10-year lease. And in that lease, that's the only difference. There's two differences: the term of the lease and the amount of different items that are allowed to be or not allowed to be dumped off.
Right.
We just updated that in the Exhibit C. That was changed from the last time, which was 10 years ago. So this, the term of this lease is 10 years with 2 renewable 10-year terms. So it could be for a total of 30 years.
And the option is for the town's option?
Both
sides?
parties' options. You review it in 10 years, and then renew or not renew. If you didn't renew, you'd have to go out to bid again.
Right, exactly. Okay. All right, any questions on the lease agreement? Mr. Fowler?
Who's planning on being here 10 years from now? You'll be here.
I'll be here.
I did, Mr. Chair. 4-7, I was trying to understand all of this Department of Labor and that, and how does that work out for you guys? Was that in the past ones also? I mean, I just
4-7,
don't
where are we?
quite
They have
understand.
union labor, right?
Page
In
3 at
Teamsters?
the top.
Excuse me?
Page 3 at the top, 4.7. It's to do with prevailing wage in that, and how does that?
They're required to pay prevailing wage.
And
This is the 30B.
That's been in your other contract? Okay.
Yes.
I was just a little surprised at it. It's because they're renting from.
They're leasing.
us? They're leasing from us at this
Land.
requirement?
Mhm.
Okay. I was just trying to understand why that would come in, because you're still kind of a private organization.
Right, but we had to go under the 30B procurement laws, and they require prevailing wages.
Okay, any other questions, Gary? Anything else?
That was it.
We're gonna go around the room here.
Okay,
Steve,
Steve.
any questions? The applicant?
Excuse me, I don't have the document in front of me. Are there any requirements, since it is town land, that we require any environmental studies done on the land?
No.
On a yearly basis, every 5 years, nothing?
No.
So we could have seepage there and no one would know?
Well, they're under DEP for their operations.
So that going,
We're regulated under DP.
That's what I'm
and
saying, so
then
that
we have a
takes it-
quarterly inspection by a
Okay, I
DEP
realize
certified
that.
engineer
Okay.
that then has to submit a report to the
But
state.
that's outside of the lease.
okay.
That's our responsibility.
Doug, any questions?
No, I'm all set.
I just had a question about batteries.
Mm-hmm.
You know, 9-volt batteries, C batteries, D batteries. Right now, personally, I take them back to the Home Depot and
Right.
recycle them there, but can you bring those to the transfer station?
We try not to accept them. We will accept them. You can drop them at the scale house, and then they bag them, and then we bring them to the recycling center. It's hard to maintain them
Right.
and to enforce them, but they are banned from the actual waste stream. But if you drop them at the scale house, yes, we will take them.
Scales, okay. All right,
So
And then
I-
car batteries, we also take.
you take car batteries
Yes.
too? All right.
So this Exhibit C that lists all the different materials and the facility name and location of where those items get transferred to?
That's everything that we're approved through the state to take, and where, for the most part, where they all go.
Right,
The only thing on that list that we don't take is the clean gypsum wallboard. And the big difference between this list and the one that was devised 10 years ago was that back then, plastics 1 and 2 were the only recyclable plastics, so it's just been modified in plastics 1 through 7, and just listed as all single resin plastic containers. And then we now accept tires and we have CRTs in there, TVs. We're not currently accepting them because Box Q right down the street takes them, so we just refer people directly to them rather than us handle them and then just truck them over there.
Okay.
But we are permitted to take them.
So I wasn't aware of that, because we've been, I see a lot of people go to when St. Mary's has the recycle day for computers and TVs and
It's
stuff.
probably
like
cheaper to do it that way, to be honest
that.
with you.
It's either $5 or $10.
Yeah. In
Okay.
Box Q, it's based on the size of the television, which they're
Okay.
right on Tenney Street, right next to our office.
Oh, okay.
But they are open to the public.
Oh, so this is stuff that, I've been in town 10 years now. Didn't know that, so it's good to,
Anytime someone comes in with a CRT, we refer them directly to Box Q.
Right. Okay. Now, the more information we can get out to the residents
Mhm.
about what you accept, and, 'cause I'm there every Saturday morning anyway, my recycle stuff, but just sometimes it's like, I have these batteries, I don't know what to do with them, and, and you're waiting for St. Mary's to do, they seem to do it quarterly,
Mm-hmm.
and they have the TV drop off. It's mostly computers though.
Right, right.
When you sit there, but they fill that thing up in a matter of 20 minutes.
Mhm.
People are waiting in line just to dump all this stuff.
And most
Yeah.
are flat panel now, and the flat
Yeah.
panel aren't actually hazardous, which is why you can get rid of those a lot cheaper.
Okay.
It's the old tube style.
It's the tubes, yeah. I mean, I dropped a bunch off, but,
Mm-hmm.
okay. Any other questions? All right, so, I would entertain a motion to approve the transfer station lease with Mello and Company as presented.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion on the motion? Hearing none, all those in favor? Aye.
All right,
Thank you, gentlemen,
Thank you.
and good luck.
I would just like to say, thank you very much, number one. And we've been operating this transfer station now since, for 36 years.
Mhm.
And this is basically going to be 10, could be possibly 30 years. I'd like to just say after the next 30, I'm done. Okay, I've had enough, I'm done. Thank you very much.
I think it's been a wonderful thing for the town, that what you've done, and, I think people need to know that there's still a lot of perception that you get the place for $1 a year, and it's
Right.
far above
no.
that.
Right, well, that's a good point, Gary, because
It
we
is.
hear that all the time.
No, it was, at the beginning, it was $1, yeah. And it just increased a little to 40,000
I
a year.
think it works out well for both sides. that
Yes.
will hopefully,
Yes, it
you know,
does.
yeah.
Yes.
Yes, it is.
Okay, gentlemen, thank you.
Would you like me to sign that before we leave?
Yeah, Janet,
Signing it now.
yeah, we're signing it, then you just have to sign, okay.
Two copies there.
We'll take it.
Sign
One for me, one for you guys.
Okay.
Six one half dozen the other.
So while we're signing this, what do we want to take a 2-minute break? Real quick?
Sure.
Okay, so I'd entertain a motion to have a 2-minute recess.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, we're in recess for 2 minutes. Okay, so we're back. So next item for discussion is gonna be the Healthy Farms Community Host Agreement, the draft agreement. And I'd like to thank Doug and Mike specifically. I didn't intend us to be an interactive session, to be honest.
okay.
So I would ask you to, you know, if we have questions, we may ask, but my intention was not to have this as an interactive session where it would be, you know, the attorney, you know, our attorney, you know, informing you, you know, where we are at this point, so. All right, so again, I'd like to thank Doug for the time he's put in on this, and Mike, and maybe walk through this. Again, this is a draft, and we can certainly discuss any items and issues that we have. So, I would defer to Doug and Mike to begin the discussion on the draft agreement. I mean, everybody had a chance to look at it, right, and go through it. I think we've you know, definitely done a lot of reading. I've read through it myself. Again, let me have, you know, Doug and Mike start right from the beginning on where we are. So, everybody's comments, I had asked everybody's comments to be submitted, and were those submitted and looked at, and,
Yes.
you know, so
Yeah,
maybe
we
wanna run
looked
through
at,
it.
we looked at the comments, the ideas, and put pen to paper,
Okay.
like.
Yeah, I would assume not everything got in there because, right, on some of
No.
the suggestions.
Well, some of the things weren't for this particular point in time,
Okay.
but we needed to develop a draft that could be presented to Healthy Farms.
Okay.
And-
All right.
And so, you all have read it. Mike, do you have anything to say about it?
No, as Doug said, all the suggestions were sent to legal counsel, KMP, and he addressed them all with Doug and I. Some were redundant, some just he felt didn't belong in the agreement, but they were all vetted by legal. And, you know, there were several changes and that Doug had specifically asked to be made, and,
That was, yeah, those are based on input from Selectmen.
mm-hmm.
So is there anything in this draft that we need to take a quick look at that is not, you know, that we've identified maybe a typo or not?
Well, I know on page 2,
Okay, let's do that first, and then we can open it up to
if you
specific
go to
questions.
page 2 and section C
Yep.
for the third year of operation.
Mm-hmm.
The intent of that was to have 1.5% of gross sales, and then the dollar amount that we listed in it,
Rather than 4%?
rather than 4%. And, okay, so it would be the dollar amount of 400,000 plus 1.5%.
In addition to, in the third year?
Right. It
Okay.
was kind of a progressive step through each year.
Okay. So can we fix that? At least the verbiage, whether, you know, whether we haven't come to any type of agreement. So we're not negotiating this. This is just for us to come up with our draft, and then we'll present it to you, and then you guys can take a look at it and give us, you know, your feelings. So, so it says, in the third year of operation, 4% of gross sales revenue in each year of operation.
Well, that's not correct wording.
Right, so can we
It should be
fix-
for the third year of operation.
Okay, so can we fix that right now? In the third year of operation, 1.5%, is that what it's supposed to say, Doug?
Yes.
1.5% of gross sales revenue in each year of operation to be paid on a quarterly basis within 60 days after the end of each quarter, provided that the total amount paid per year of operation shall not be less than $400,000 per year of operation.
Right, no, I think that the way that we had discussed that would be $400,000 cash contribution
Okay.
for that third year, and then 1.5%.
Okay. So then what, how would that affect D in this, this?
Nothing. D is just straightforward.
Okay, 5% of gross sales, okay. All right, so any other changes to what's been presented so far that may be typos?
Not that I had
Not-
seen
not
any
yet.
that you
Okay.
saw, Mike.
All right, so, Mike, anything?
No.
Nothing? Okay. So here's what I would do. I'd open it up to the board for specific comments. So I want to go right down the line. So we'll go Gary first. Any specific questions, comments?
Nothing I know.
Nothing? All right. Steve?
The only question I had was gross sales, does that include wholesale as well as retail? I think the way I read it, it did, but,
Yeah.
I just wasn't sure, I mean, I'm sure if town council looked over it, that
Right.
was, included.
Yeah, we had that,
So
it
it should
says,
be
if
on
you look at
page-
D on page 2,
Page 2,
in the second paragraph, it says, the term gross sales shall mean the total of all sales transactions from the RMD without limitation, and shall include but not be limited to any retail sales occurring at the RMD, including the sale of medical marijuana, marijuana-infused products, paraphernalia, and other products sold at the RMD, such as retail merchandise and clothing.
so that would include any off.
Well, I know that Healthy Farms has indicated
Lester.
that they would be wanting to grow wholesale.
Right.
And then there's the potential of a distribution facility in Leicester,
Right.
and possibly another one in Cambridge.
There's already
No?
one,
Yeah. So they'd be growing wholesale.
Oh, I mean,
Do you
for
wanna
that, for
confirm
that,
that
yeah,
with
can we confirm that as a specific question?
Yep, Mr. Chairman, through the chair.
Yes, sure.
Certainly, we are seeking Cambridge currently. We've obtained a letter of support from Leicester. As far as whether we're moving forward with Leicester is a little unclear right now, but we are seeking Cambridge currently.
And those are retail, those are.
Just retail, only no cultivation or processing. That's would
Oh.
solely occur here in Georgetown.
Okay, great, thank you.
I have a question.
Sure.
I spoke with Paul, and he indicated at some point in time, you might need a letter of support or non-opposition for the distribution to one of those two sites.
Through the chair.
Yes, yeah, that's fine.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, so that was actually what, until we saw the agenda, what we thought we were coming up here to discuss tonight. Frankly, I'm with Nat Averill, Valerio Romano, attorney for Healthy Farms. I've been around the town a lot for the last year. And so that's what I thought we were talking about, was sort of the letter issue that came out. And I was actually sort of going to apologize for wasting your time on it. You know, that we got an RFI from the Department of Public Health, a request for information, because they want our letter to be dated 6 days later than it was dated. And I brought copies of that with me. And so that's really what I thought we were here to discuss, more than the host community agreement. I've certainly been through KMP's host community agreements in many other cities and towns, so I know what to expect.
Okay.
And we've done some good work cleaning them up and editing them. We did United Worcester. I've just done them all over, so we can work with the town. I look forward to getting a revision. We could do track changes and redline them and send them back and forth and maybe an opportunity to sit down and really sort of talk about the core terms.
Right.
But, so two separate issues. One, the letter, and that's clearly what I'd like to talk to the board about most. I didn't mean to come and eavesdrop on your internal discussion.
No, then that's, there's no eavesdrop, this is public session,
And I-
so anybody can, can be here to discuss. So again, I wasn't aware that we were gonna, did I
No,
miss
I-
that?
I-
No, it wasn't on the agenda. I hadn't heard, like I said, Paul told me they were going to be requesting one. I didn't take it as the official request.
Okay. Alright.
So
Let
if
us
this is the
continue.
official request,
Okay,
then
so we can handle
talk about
that, let us finish this, so that we can come out here united on a draft that's presented to, to the business, and then, we can begin that negotiation, that negotiation piece, so. All right, any other specific questions, Steve?
No, that's all I had.
That's all you have?
Yep.
Okay. Joe?
As time goes on, depending on, the amount of people, that we have coming through the facility, I've driven, down that way, I'll be honest, I didn't even know the building was there for a while. But I gotta say, I mean, I think, you know, that could, with the amount of people coming out of there, it could become somewhat unsafe. You know, I think that if people are coming out and they're taking a left back onto 133, with all those, you have a 2-lane road coming down, right? And then you get another 2-lane road coming the other way. I do have concerns about the safety of everybody traveling that road if you're trying to take a left back into Georgetown.
I thought, again, the chief's here, so that's a double line? Is that a double line?
That's a 2-lane
You're not supposed to
road.
cross a double line to take a left to come back on 133. It's probably gonna be right turn only out of there, no?
Right, it's a 2-lane, right?
Single, is it a single line or a double line?
You can take a left-hand turn there.
Yeah, you could say.
Okay.
So my thought
Traffic
is,
studies done, and it was, you know, there was pre-existing business there before, and I believe, the attorney would know, the planning board.
but it wasn't retail though.
What's that?
It wasn't a retail location, so we're gonna have a lot of people hopefully.
No, I voiced that 2 years ago whenever we started this process, but I've been assured by Healthy Farms that if we have a problem there, and I believe it's in the order of conditions, that they will work with my department and provide me the resources necessary. If it becomes a daunting task or it becomes a safety issue, it's not necessarily the 2 lanes, it's the off-ramp going east on 133 is the problem. Well, I shouldn't say, it could be problematic.
right.
I should not say it's a problem.
We just have cars coming
It's
from everywhere.
just been a focus of crashes in the past, but it did not affect their planning
Yep.
At that level.
Well, I guess my question is, you know, if it does become problematic, what is the fix? Is it a traffic light, or is it something else? Because if that is the case, it's going to be an extra expense.
Well, in the order of conditions, and I'm sure the attorney knows it much better than I, but I know my little section that I requested is that if we have traffic issues down there, that we may have to have a police presence there.
Every day?
It's the
Well,
planning board.
it depends on their operation, you know, I'm talking about things that I have not seen, nor have I got data on. I would have to provide that data, and if in fact it requires a traffic control point, if it requires redesign of that area, that overpass, as you'll see by a letter that's in your package from my Searle Street initiative, that's state, that entire roadway is state initiated. I have no, I have no standing there. It's in my community, but I have to work with DOT. But as far as the operation of that facility, it would be me coming to you and then working with the Healthy Farms people under that one order of conditions to keep that business operational.
Well, I guess, you know, I submit to the board, that's a major concern of mine. You know, and maybe that is something that may want to be added. Because I certainly would like to make sure the town is covered under any kind of extra expense that might be incurred.
I think the planning board, that's it, yeah, that's taken care of in the approval in the planning board. The chief has ultimate, that's that paragraph, and I can't remember off the top of my head, but basically it says, if there's these type of issues, he'd approach the business and work out a solution, and the cost is on.
And they would assist us in that endeavor.
Okay.
If it includes a police presence during operation, or if traffic control is an issue, we have to deal with it. And obviously, it would be my responsibility to bring data to them to quantify why I'm asking for that.
Okay.
All right. Anything else, Joe?
Nope, that is all.
Obviously, Doug, any questions or any issues that you have with it?
No, I just, we just wanted to have this good draft copy to give back to town council and begin the discussions with Healthy Farms, but we all wanted to, we need to approve it from this board of how we're going forward, so we're all on the same page.
Right. So, Mike, you were gonna add something to the comment?
No, I'm good.
You're good? So I'm still confused on page 2, so can we just go back to that for 1 minute? Because it says in the third year of operation, it's 1.5% of gross sales revenue in each year of operation.
Well, no, you could take out in each, scratch that out, that's, I don't know, that's kind of
Alright, so-
redundant, that's kind of
Okay,
redundant.
so 1.5% of gross sales revenue to be paid on a quarterly basis within 60 days after each quarter, provided that the total amount paid per year of operation shall not be less than
Shouldn't be-
400.
Yeah, it shouldn't be not less than, it should be, just it's basically that number plus 1.5%.
Yeah, so that's not what this is saying then. So So I think you
No,
have to
we just
rework.
need to modify the language so that it
Right.
indicates that.
Well, I'd like to get that done so that everybody here has the actual, we can vote on that. Because then the next year, it jumps to 5%, so just, to me, it's just very confusing.
Well, then I think that. I think you would remove from provided all the way through to the end of the sentence.
Okay, so can you read it back to me, if you don't mind?
And then we would say, in the third year of operation, a sum of $400,000
So the 1.5%?
plus 1.5%.
No, that's the point that I was trying to figure out.
to be paid on a quarterly basis, blah, 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 period.
Okay, so everybody get that change? Just wanna make sure we have that right.
So it's 400 plus 1.5.
Right.
Yep.
Okay. All right, got it. Okay, so, that being said, everybody has it. Are we prepared to, vote on this draft to be presented to, Healthy Farms through Mike and legal counsel? Is that gonna be the actual process?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Everybody comfortable with that process?
Yes.
Okay. So the vote for tonight will be to, approve this draft agreement and direct Mike to work with legal counsel to present it to Healthy Farms. That's what, anybody wanna make that motion?
Well, so moved.
All right, we got a second?
Second.
All right, so we have a motion and a second, any discussion on the motion? Mr. Fowler?
I guess, yes. So how, it's more on the process, I guess, so how is it gonna work once we turn it over to the attorney?
Okay,
I mean, you've put some figures in here, I mean, but obviously, it's a negotiation type thing, like anything else that we do. So
Mhm.
are we stuck with this, or are we, I mean, we're gonna be voting on this every meeting that we have going forward? I guess that's the process.
well, I would say that this is a,
Or we
a
will
starting
rely
point.
on the committee to do the best they can and then bring something back.
Right, I like that idea, that, again, we're voting on this draft to be presented to them. From that point, they can either say, yeah, that's great, sign it, and, send it back to us, or say it's no longer a draft, we agree with it, we're fine. That would come to this committee, to us as a vote. In the meantime, there's gonna be back and forth, which he's already said he's gonna redline it, so we already know that, so we would ask that you work, that works through Mike and Doug as the committee, and then keep us advised, as to any changes or where the negotiation is, and we'll do that in public session. That's pretty much
Right.
the way I see it. Are we all in agreement?
Think of
With
think of
that?
it, may I?
Sure, yeah,
Just
absolutely.
think of it as kind of like a real estate transaction. You have the buyer's attorney, the seller's attorney, and you come to an agreement on a price, but then you prepare a purchase and sale agreement and all this, and it goes to each attorney, and they go back and forth with each other until final language, they each write their own addendums and riders, and the attorneys agree on language and terms, and then the, buyers and sellers are, involved in that whole process, but it's the same thing. So K&P will talk to Healthy Farms attorney, and it'll go, and so we'll get a final copy that we'll wind up ratifying or not.
Or not, right, we'll have those discussions on what that, what legal counsel, both councils come up with for language. So I would ask the committee to keep us abreast on any developments, and we would hope by September 12th, we can have, some type of agreement, or at least some good vetting back and forth. The volleying of back and forth should hopefully be, pretty much slowed down by September 12th at our next meeting. And then we'll take a look at it from there. If we're not comfortable, then we send it back.
Do these discussions have to be held in
Yes.
public session?
Yes.
They do.
We've been advised by legal counsel that yes. Yep.
Okay.
Unless that's changed, Mike,
No, it hasn't.
but this is
No, it hasn't.
a public, public discussion, so.
Okay.
But I think we're all in agreement that obviously this is pretty much, best practice on both sides with all the cities and towns that and other companies that have been, involved in this business, so it's pretty standard.
As a resident and the parent of a prospective patient, I appreciate the public session.
Okay. So it's pretty standard stuff. It's not like your attorney had already said. It's pretty standard stuff.
Just real quick, Mr.
Sure.
Chairman, if I might, so I think that, or I'm guessing, and my understanding is that, Mr. Dawes' participation would be sort of like the client for KMP to talk about, excuse me, to talk about some of the deal points, cause you know, the language we can work out between the lawyers to make it, to effectuate the purpose of the agreement, but when we're talking about, you know, what the actual returns are to the town, you know, that's what the committee's for, is that my understanding?
I would say, yeah, to come back to us and say, look, this is what we got for pro formas. The old, I mean, I think we're working off old pro forma, you know, forecasts, to be honest. So maybe we have some updated information, and then, you know, we make the point, you make your point to say, hey, you know, that's great, or it's not, and then Doug can, you know, Doug and Mike can come back to us and say, here's the reason why we think that we should move this here, okay? With the documentation, it's not, you know, we wanna see some documentation, what, you know, what justifies changing what, you know, our first pass is, to be honest. So we're gonna want some justification of that. Because this is pretty standard, we've done our research on what other communities have done, and it's pretty similar, so.
Yeah, we don't have to engage in that now.
That is it, right, okay.
Yeah, I mean,
That wasn't the intent tonight, that's why I said, well, where you guys going, sit down. We were-
I definitely have my thoughts on what I heard already.
You looked at me like, what is he talking about? All right, so are we all in agreement on the process at this point? Okay, so I have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor? Aye.
Right.
Okay, unanimous, so
Aye.
you'll be hearing from our legal counsel on a first draft that the board has approved. All right,
Attorney Romano's name is splashed all over the newspapers, I mean, in all the communities that he is working in.
all right, so, let's talk about, and again, can we do this, Mike, now, when you
Yes.
approach us under
Yeah,
this particular
it's,
topic?
Under,
Items not reasonably.
did not come to the chairman's,
Within 48 hours in advance of the meeting?
yeah.
Okay, all right, so, Counselor, come on up.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman.
Applicant, come on up and state your name for the record, so we have it in our minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
You're welcome.
Valerio Romano, attorney for Healthy Farms.
Nathaniel Averill, Healthy Farms, Executive Director.
Great. Okay, so how can we help you tonight?
Okay, great. So, I pass this around. Number 6 on page 2. You could see this is a request for information from the Department of Public Health, and most of these things are, you know, fairly standard. Different applicants get different versions of these sorts of things. The department can be, you know, somewhat, they're doing their diligence because they don't want to have, you know, a repeat of getting beaten up by the press for not really crossing all their T's and dotting all their I's. So they really do their diligence on all the applications. So number 6 on page 2 talks about the date of the letter of support or non-opposition. And as you can see, they created this process. It's not a regulatory process, application of intent or anything like that. They created this process, and it's almost embarrassing for me to be in front of you saying, oh, they're pushing back on the letter for our citing profile for our second application, because it's off by 6 days. It's crazy, and this is you know, the department, I gotta say, they really are focusing on every bit of minutia, and they're really trying hard to roll this program out in a responsible manner. So but that's kind of the issue that we're having with the department. Is everything else we have fixed. It's just that one issue that we can't fix without the assistance of the town. You know, under the letter of support template, Mr. Farrell is empowered to fix this himself by issuing a new letter of support. The board can certainly vote on it. I mean, it's a silly procedural little thing, you know.
My only question, will that changing those 6 days interfere with anything else that's gone on, in particular planning board issues? In other words, if they didn't do anything with this within those 6 days, because if we move up that letter by 6 days, it could, again, I'm just saying, could affect what the planning board has done from a timing perspective, timeline.
They just did the
waited.
hearing in February.
Okay.
So Yeah, you know, we could move it by 6 days, and that would fix it. I don't think it would interfere with anything else that's done in the town. There is no regulatory requirement to have a letter of support. It's an application requirement, so it doesn't mess us with the regs. It wasn't necessarily a planning board requirement. Yeah, we were certainly in front of the planning board months and months later, so.
Mike, just a quick question. Should we, again, you're the lawyer for the applicant.
Of course.
We should,
Yeah, no,
should we
please.
be checking with our legal counsel on this particular issue before we make any
Well, yeah,
changes to the letter?
definitely.
Yeah.
But, yeah.
I would wanna get their blessing. Of course. So cause we don't wanna, mix up mix up what we have going on, so.
No, absolutely.
Yeah, good, Gary.
Just, yeah, without it being on the agenda, I don't know that we should do anything.
Yeah,
I mean, we could certainly hear it and take it in, but I would,
I wasn't calling for a vote. I don't think I would be wanting to call for a vote on this tonight. I think we'd wanna push this through our legal counsel, see what their advice is, and then, go from there, so. Is
Well,
that-
if they say, go ahead, change it,
Yeah,
you still want it to come back to the board?
well,
we need to vote, right?
I mean, we could,
It's really a ministerial,
right. We could
Change.
vote tonight to have this, pass to legal counsel for an opinion if it's, if there are no effects of doing this, then we allow Mike to sign the letter, to change the date.
Mr. Chairman, if I might be heard as well, so we could have a second letter. So we don't even necessarily have to change the date on the first letter. We could have a second letter with today's date or whatever date, if Mike re-signs it, and that way we could say, the town of Georgetown hereby provides an additional letter of support dated whatever it is, and that way we don't have to worry about the early date or the next date, and we don't have to worry about backdating something or whatever,
I would want to defer to
Yeah,
our legal counsel.
I'm just throwing that
Yeah,
as an
that's it,
option
right.
when you speak.
I guess the question I would have, Mr. Chair, is that this process would have no bearing on another letter of support or non-opposition that you may need to do to open the other two facilities that you were talking about.
Well,
Because you'd be growing for them.
Yeah, so I think the board is aware that our plan is to grow for up to 2 more facilities. And that's really all that the Department of Public Health, sometimes they say, well, was the board aware? And all along, we've never hidden the fact that we've gotten 65,000 square feet there. We've never tried to make it seem like we weren't growing for, additional licenses or registrations. So, I don't think we'd have to come back for further letters as long as the board is aware. And, I don't think we've ever, hidden that idea, and I'm
So
certainly.
just at the time, you didn't have Leicester and possibility of Cambridge when we did that.
Yeah, we're probably not moving forward in Leicester, although I don't wanna definitively commit to that, and we're.
They're not watching.
Well, no, I speak with their town administrator as well, and then, as far as Cambridge, we're applying for a zoning petition amendment, so, zoning amendment petition, so we're a little ways away from amending zoning in Cambridge as well, so, we've submitted a petition, but we haven't obtained a letter of support or anything, so we're almost as speculative as even when we were doing here a year ago, as far as Cambridge is concerned. But I think that the value is understanding that, we have a pretty big facility there, and no matter where it is, we're hoping to cultivate for some other, well, at least 1, if not 2 other licenses and opportunities to help the patients of the Commonwealth.
I think the responsible thing would be, let us check with legal counsel and put it on
course.
our next agenda for a vote, Mike.
all right.
I think that would be on our part.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. That's why I brought up that additional letter or something, because then we don't have to backtrack or change anything that was already
Well,
done.
let's see what
Yeah.
legal counsel says is the
Okay.
easiest or most efficient way to do this.
Great,
Okay?
great.
Very good.
Thank you
Well,
very
thank
much.
you.
Yeah,
Thank you.
we look forward to it.
How's the construction and everything going down?
Oh, yeah, one more thing. If anybody from the board wants to come visit, there's people.
Or all of you.
Yeah, or all of you at the same time, whatever. There are people there all the time,
We're at a place where the construction's really laid out, you can see what things are gonna be like,
Okay, cool.
and we haven't started
planting anything yet, so you don't have to do special gowning, and it gets a lot more complicated at that point, so it's sort of a good period of time to
Right.
take a look.
Just real quick, so when do you guys plan to start the
Well,
process?
we are gonna have the Department of Public Health back on the 24th, and if we pass that inspection, then they write a report and bring it to their bosses, and whenever that gets approved, that's when we would be able to plant.
Okay, so you're still thinking about December as your, or is that pushed out?
To start planting or
No,
opening
to
the door?
start, yeah, to open the door.
I think it's probably pushed out a little bit.
Yeah.
February is probably best, realistically,
Gotcha.
maybe it's March even.
Okay.
Working with the Department of Public Health, they are really focused on the minutia, so everything
Gotcha.
takes a little longer than,
A lot
you
longer
know.
than you'd expect.
Yeah.
Okay.
And if,
Just-
I don't- Chief, I don't know when the last time you were there was either, but of course you're welcome anytime, as you know.
Well, myself and
Yeah.
Lieutenant Hatch took an extensive tour to look at the floor plan.
I have a
and,
question.
and I think we were there about an hour and a half, and it's coming along, and we've been welcomed back, and I think what we'll do, just before they get into that gowning thing, I don't want anything to do with that, but just to get the final plan and the floor plan in our minds so that we can work with these folks, so we're on top of it.
Thanks, Chief.
And Mike had one question for you.
Just before I went away on vacation, I just came back today, you were seeking a partial certificate of occupancy.
Yeah.
Was that granted yet?
So they had I know that your town planner was out, she was sick, and
Oh.
there was an issue with the notice, it didn't get on, and I know, Robert is also out this month, so, we are gonna be on the 24th, on the night of the 24th, so we didn't get on the agenda for the,
August?
August 24th.
Oh, okay.
We didn't get on the agenda for the planning board last time, it just wasn't noticed,
Okay,
yeah.
yeah.
So we're looking forward to that, you know, I think we have some sign off as far as that's concerned from some town departments, so.
Oh, yeah, everybody with the planning board.
Everybody with the planning board is on board with the
Yeah, it
partial
was-
CO.
The building inspector was, he was okay with it.
And I don't,
The
yeah,
permit requires them to go back to the planning board.
Mr. Hoover and your new planner were both unavailable, so I think it was just, you know.
All right, very good.
Thank you,
All
Mr.
right,
Chairman.
thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Take care, guys. Thank you.
All right, so next thing I want to talk about on the agenda is the school resource officer issue. All right, so on the school, let's talk about the school resource officer. I fully admit that I had individual conversations with selectmen about this particular issue and utilizing the, I wanna say $60,000 or $68,000 additional that's been released from the state to see that, I think our only vote on that particular issue would be to whether we wanted to put that on the warrant so that that money could be expended or moved to a line item under the police salaries. And my individual conversations with selectmen were, you know, pretty much in support, except for one person had mentioned that he didn't want to add any more employees to the town, which I respect. So I think, you know, that message, I kind of put that message through to the Finance and Advisory Board, that if they so chose to vote on that and move that forward, that it appeared that I would have this board's support to put it on the warrant, because that, you know, that's the way that obviously this thing has to move forward. Now, I know that some people, you know, on this board, speaking individually, were upset about the way this whole thing was communicated, and, you know, understandably so. So where are we now? I think we're at a point where I think that the chief has already hired the school resource officer, and by the way, the Finance and Advisory Board could go ahead and make that vote without, you know, without our support in the first place, if they really wanted to, within their own, you know, they had their own guidelines and authority to go ahead and grant that expenditure. Again, it's up to us to get it on the warrant, from what I understand, to do a transfer. So, Again, I wanna discuss this issue, I wanna vet this particular issue, see where everybody is with it. You know, if I have to apologize to the board for the way the process was done, you know, I'm fully prepared to do that and say that, you know, I think it was in earnest to get these, this thing moving before, and somebody in place before school opens up and be, you know, we'll be, you know, school will be underway by the time we get to our next meeting. So, you know, rather than waste everybody's time, I wanted to make sure that we would have enough support to get it on the warrant. So again, if I kinda jumped the gun on that, I apologize to the board for that. And, you know, I just don't wanna send a mixed message. I think when we go over our goals at the next meeting, you know, we just had just too much of a, you know, a very busy meeting tonight. We still have a lot of business to do, reviewing the goals. But one of my goals is to improve the communication amongst this board. I know that, you know, in no disrespect to prior boards, which I was part of, there was some communication breakdown, and under, you know, at least while I'm chair, I wanna, you know, take steps to improve the communication so that everybody's aware of what's going on. So, again, I would open the discussion on this, maybe have the chief come up, unless we wanna talk about the process piece of it first. I know that you know, I've had some individual conversations with the chief, Mike, and, you know, mostly everybody on this board, so, if anybody wants to chime in?
Mr. Chairman?
Sure.
I'd like to also apologize or clarify my presentation to the FinCom. I based my remarks on our discussion, your discussion as a board back on June 13th, when we originally started talking about the host agreement. And it was my opinion that the board felt, and never did the board make any public vote, but it did seem clear to me that the board was in support of additional police. And you know, what I should have said was, it was my opinion that the board was in support of the SRO. That would have been much clearer and more accurate.
Anybody wanna chime in on this particular situation or particular issue, or do we wanna bring the chief up to kinda review where we're at?
I'd just like to say something. I had indicated in a conversation with you, Mr. Chair, that I was in favor that we should have a school resource officer. But I was looking at that funding to come from a different source. And that the discussion of a school resource officer was premature because it was competing against that other source. In general, and on the idea of a school resource officer, I think that's important. I thought it was important when we had Dave Armstrong as the DARE officer. I would think that with the funding, we should probably consider, once that other source is validated, of then returning any, whatever it is, 60,000 or whatever the number is, from that source back to the general fund or free cash, wherever it would wind up going.
Well, I think in my individual conversations with people, I thought I was clear about the funding source, and that would be the extra money that the governor's budget released, and if I didn't communicate that, then that's on me. But that was clearly, because I just thought that this Healthy Farms money, this agreement was gonna be pretty far off before we seen any money from that, and that we wanna, you know, use the money. And I specifically had asked Mike, was that money available now, or did it go through free cash? And Mike said it's available now, we can spend it, you know, in our regular budget. I wasn't, you know, again.
Once appropriated.
Right, once appropriated, exactly. it's not handled like it was, you know, a free cash where it has to go through the cycle and it has to get certified and then you get it back. So again, if I did not communicate that properly, then, you know, then I apologize for that, but, I thought it was pretty clear that we were gonna use the 68 or 60,000 that the budget, the governor released to fund this immediately. Whether we talked about putting it back, you know, I think that
Well,
that's.
we didn't discuss putting it
Right,
back.
right. But we did, today, you and I talked
Yeah,
about how we
today,
would put it
but-
back, right.
But we did discuss that I thought it was in conflict with the potential of funding from another source.
Okay.
But in general, the idea of a school resource officer, absolutely.
Yeah, okay. And I think we can talk about that rather quickly, is that the money that we do get from this host agreement is gonna go in a special account that the selectmen have control over. And just as a thought to throw it out there, is that we could set up reserves within that, you know, knowing, and putting an SOP together that says, you know, so much of that's gonna be held aside for X, right? So rather than put it back to the general fund, because if it's unspent, right, if we replenish the extra 60 that we got, then the only way we're gonna be able to touch that is another cycle through, because it'll fund, it'll just roll over to free cash from our account. So maybe we can set up, you know, a reserve within our own special account to say $60,000, we're gonna hold aside and not spend it on anything else but a school resource officer each year, you know, rather than pass it through to the regular budget. I don't know the ins and outs of all that, but.
Well, I would just like whatever the dollar amount is that's spent on a school resource officer is this additional, money from, coming in from the state, does that just go in the general fund, or does it go to free cash?
It's general fund revenue.
So it's state aid, basically.
Yeah.
It's state
Well,
aid.
they increased the amount of state revenue by $60,000.
And then the danger in all of this is that we don't know what that number's gonna be next year.
If
Which,
at all.
but we face that danger with everything else that we fund from the state anyway, so, all right.
Can I-
Well, let Gary has it.
Let me speak to the process of how it got here. I thank you for the apology, but I watched the finance committee meeting today on YouTube. I spoke to the chair. I went out and read the latest article in the newspaper. And I think that the finance committee vote was somewhat misinformed. And the chair told me today, well, that's not what I was told. I mean, they were told that the Board of Selectmen was behind this and would move this to the fall town meeting, and we have not discussed that. So, you know, they took a vote based on misinterpreted information, let's call it. And so the process was not good. It wasn't good, and that's just, we've been through this in the past a little bit. I don't know how it breaks now, but you can apologize all you want, but we need to improve that process. And so I just wanted to speak on that, and then I still would like the time to speak on it budget-wise, why I just think it does not make sense to be doing this. I don't know when you wanna get onto that. You talked about the process.
Yeah, I wanna
so
stick with the
that's-
process
and
for now.
I would have liked to have, been aware that the finance committee was discussing this. I would have probably been there, trying to express my disconcern with it.
Well, I think that I had individual conversations with everybody on the board, and I knew where you stood, right? And I knew where everybody else stood. You know, I mean, it appeared to me that when we got to the point, you know, we had enough support so that they could go ahead and move this forward. Again, was that, you know, a miscalculation on my part? Maybe it was.
It wasn't interpreted that way, though, to
Yeah.
them. So they took a vote, David, on, I don't know if I can read it. I mean, I wrote down just what it said in the newspaper today, which was quoting Mike. And it said, you know, it said, we've had discussion with the selectmen and they have agreed, and with your advice and consent at the fall town meeting, they would put that on the warrant and appropriate that money to the police budget. We never did that.
Right. No, I agree.
So that
that's-
was, they were misinformed.
Yep.
And personally, I think that they should revote that vote. But, I mean, it was only a vote of support anyway, so.
Well, again, we are where we are, and I'll just, let's, where are we gonna take it from here? Joe? go ahead.
Actually, Steve, I think you.
Oh, yeah, sorry,
Steve.
Steve.
That's
Sorry.
okay. That's all right.
You gotta wave at me, Steve, sorry. Sorry.
So, let me start out by saying I am all in favor of this, and I know before I ran for selectmen, I have a conversation with the chief asking how can we get one in here. So I am 100% on board. I'm happy that it's occurring. My kids are in the school. That's a big concern of mine. I think the issues with the traffic that we have right now in Elm Street going on, I mean, it couldn't have come at a perfect time, right? So I'm excited about it. Again, just to Gary's point, just the process. That's, and you guys, you heard me. I mean, I'll probably say it too much that you get tired of it. But I'm all about process, and I think it's important to to portray to the townspeople. I understood that the 60,000, right, that we were getting from the state, that's what we would use to fund it. So I was 100% clear on that.
Yep.
I did think that we were going to do some sort of a vote, which I guess we're doing.
Well, that's why it was on the agenda for
We're
tonight.
doing it
Right,
tonight, right?
Well, at
After the
least
fact, but
right.
that's fine.
Yep.
I think what really threw me for a loop was when I read that article in the paper, and it started to talk about Healthy Farms agreement, that we were going to use a percentage of that money, which we didn't discuss.
Never discussed, right.
And then there was going to be a special police gift account set up, which I didn't know we discussed that either. So again, it's all about process. And the last thing that I wanted to say, and I'll just throw this out here, we don't have to vote, but just something to think about. We had a communications committee in the past, which it's still out there in the bylaws if those are up to date. But I've received interest from people that would like to be part of that, committee. And I just asked the board to maybe think about how we could use that committee to disseminate information, whether it's to the press or to the people in town, and maybe that'll help with communications a little bit. Having just one point of contact. But so that's all I had.
Joe?
Yeah. So first and foremost, I think everyone knows here, I'm a big advocate, for this. I think as a board, if we are supposed to be representing our public in Georgetown, this is probably on the top of a lot of people's lists. It really is. I mean, people have wanted, this position in place for a very long time. Hasn't happened, although the chief has tried for a number of different years, and we haven't put it in place for probably a bunch of reasons. But with that said, when you get an opportunity to serve a good amount of people in town, and what I'm talking about is this money, yeah, there's procedure. And what I'll say is, first and foremost, everyone makes mistakes. All right, nobody here is perfect. If you're gonna tell me you're perfect, then I'd love to sit down with you and tell me how you became perfect. All right. Sometimes things just get fumbled, and it is what it is. Okay. But with that being said, there was an opportunity here, and to put this SRO in place in time for school, I think some people, including myself, were very excited to get it done. Okay. When we talk about this position, I'm not sure, and I'll say, Gary, I'm not sure how you don't support this. When you talk about this position, you're talking about safety. There is nothing in this town, nothing that is more important than safety to our people.
Point of order.
Okay,
All right.
we're talking process.
Mr. Chair, about personalities and all comments should be directed to the chair.
Yeah, at this point, let's keep it,
Well,
let's not
but
criticize
Chair,
each other for support. We'll
if-
talk
if
about
it's-
that later.
I
Let's talk
understand
about
that,
the
but if it's
process.
put out on the floor, then I'm gonna address something that was put on the floor. And that is, he's not in support.
Right.
Okay, so there's nothing
You
more
haven't heard
important
that yet
than
from me.
safety, okay?
You heard that out of me?
I did.
Excuse me, Mr.
Yeah,
Chair.
I did.
let's stick to the process piece, then we'll talk about the
So-
merits of the school resource officer separately.
So from that standpoint, with safety being an issue, okay, and trying to put this position in place, you know, as soon as possible, yeah, there were some things that maybe, you know, jumped the gun, but I don't understand why, you know, for the money coming in, okay, we had discussion. To me, it was very plain, what we were trying to do. I was at that same meeting, and I have to agree that I thought we were all on board. Okay, I also spoke with the chair, and I fully understood what was going on as well. So for people to say they didn't understand what was going on, I don't agree with that at all. Again, you know, maybe there was some process that did, you know, was skipped or whatever it may be. But again, mistake, I get it. I also think that FinCom certainly understood what was going on, because I've seen that, you know, the article in the paper, I don't know, but I also think that, you know, FinCom specifically knew what they were voting on, why they were voting for it, and what it was going to do for the town. Okay, period, end of story. So I don't agree that we have to go back to FinCom whatsoever. They understood, you know, full well what they were voting on and what that was going to produce.
All right. Well, I mean, again, I'm back to the process piece of it. I don't think that anything was done maliciously. I think it was a matter of wanting to get this thing done and get it done before school started. So with that, I'll move on to the chief to talk to, you know, where are we in the process at this point, chief?
Well, first, I was at the FinCom meeting, obviously, and it was a great night for the police department. I've been before the FinCom since, as an executive officer since 2006, and I've been presenting budgets for the police department, even under Chief Mulligan's command, and then the last 4 years. Through budget marathons on Saturdays, and every year attempting to replace a position that was eliminated in 2009 because of our economic fallout nationwide. I had written the original grant, coincidentally, as I sit here today as your chief, with the aforethought then as a patrolman, trying to get us an additional position. We have not added to the PD since 2009. I am absolutely inundated. I have the smallest police force with the largest population in the area. I'm doing everything I can, running it with part-time personnel. You made a valid point tonight, Mr. Fowler, that the yesteryear of volunteerism is gone. When I started as a reserve officer in Georgetown, all the parades and details were done for free. You were blessed just to be on the job. Today, I have to pay everybody for everything, fair standard labor and the like. The reserve force is 1.5 times the size of your full-time force. Just to manage that is a daunting task, and I eliminated a management position when I took the chief's job. I do the work of two, gladly do it. This is my community. You get the Tom Brady home discount, as you said, when you negotiated with me 4 years ago. I get it. The purpose of Mike's support as our personnel director, prior to that, we had a personnel committee. Everybody knows how I feel about committees most of the time. Back in 2010, that was all bad. Since then, we have moved in a positive direction for the people who are doing the work and trying to work forward to make the correct personnel request changes in moving forward. I've heard of the process, I get it. Here's the thing, like every position on my department, everybody's, and I didn't even speak on that article. I saw the newspaper, I did not talk to Brian McGonigal or anyone from the record, so that was from television. He asked to speak to me. I said, no, we're not ready to speak yet. I have not chosen the person. There's a process to choose that person. Most important, in those budget presentations that I've made since 2006, every year I put forward that position. It's cut. 3 years ago,
I was told by then, the FinCom, that I'm next. They hired school personnel, highway personnel, other personnel, and I said, okay, I know mine is a big chunk, we'll get there. And you've been in some of those meetings, Mr. Fowler, I think you know that.
Most all of them, thank you.
Right. And I always submit 2 budgets, one with a position added, one without. That one always gets thrown away, because at the end of the day, we struggle to get to this one, right? The main reason why there was excitement, barring the process, because I don't have to speak of the process, you asked me where I am, is like other positions on our police department, this position will have 4 prongs. It's not just an SRO position. You talk about monitoring traffic on a one-way street, Brook Street. It's this big in my map, right? I have 12 locations where citizens are not happy with me because I cannot enforce traffic control in their area because I only have 2 people on duty. This position was going to assist with that in the summer months. You're spending right now close to $1,000 a weekend to protect one of our assets, the ALP. That position is going to help with that and actually get someone down there, because guess what? That position frees up from the duties of the SRO. So like every position, I have a detective who's a full-time animal control officer. It's the only community in the area that would combine those 2 positions, right? So we're taking this position, which the department has not grown since 1999, and we're solving many, many problems. We do need traffic control, and it did happen at a good time. And for once, the chips fell for me when they said this position is the start of school. My friend, the highway surveyor, tells me they're gonna rip up Elm Street for 3 months. When I got that phone call on Sunday, I was like, 3 months, not 3 weeks, 3 months. It's gonna be snowing in 3 months, right? I have another officer for that, so that coordination will be smooth, but it will be a lot smoother with that position. So that night, when I said to the FinCom, and you watched the meeting, it was a great night for me, because after waiting 10 years, that we were gonna try and reestablish our connection with our schools. I think we all know the sensitivity in our world today with American policing, where we are with all that, school safety, public place safety. We've done initiatives in all of our public buildings, which most police departments haven't done, to help our employees protect themselves in the event of something tragic occurring. So I sit here tonight as a resident, but as your police chief, saddened that this has happened at this level, knowing that my department is going to do everything that they can to limit the financial impact. I've already said that. There'll be some scheduling changes after the first day of school. I will not have to fill shifts with reserves. That's money savings. Through attrition, I can reduce that reserve force. I've had to order more guns because I've run out of guns, because my police force is growing exponentially with part-time people. I train them for a year, they leave. So I would just ask the board to think, I know you have your process, to continue to support from a personnel end. Mike's office and Janet, I work with them every day. That is a very, very, very busy place. Think of all of us on the town side jamming the things through the funnel of that office. Which square footage wise, I have one of the smallest offices in the town too, so hopefully that will expand. But I think that if you can get through that and realize that of this problem here, that some good is going to come of it, and that I hope the next time we do this, because there will be a next time, if we continue to grow like we're going, I'll be back, and it's for the betterment of the community. I run it as conservatively as I can. The numbers prove it. Our officer reactive patrol and proactive patrol, those numbers are declining because our officers are just doing what they can do, not what they could do. And there's data that I brought forward each year with the FinCom. The previous chair wanted data. So I just ask that you think of that when you have to deal with this issue. I have hired the officer, and it was a very intense process with our reserve force. Georgetown has traditionally pulled from the dedicated men and women from the reserve force. 5 people applied for the position. There was a full 2-day assessment. The best candidate got the job. He's one of our own. That's positive. Some communities are doing lateral transfers. as I call it, poaching my people, which someone just took one of mine. I have another retirement in February. I just got the notice. There's some more change. There's some more money. So your aged police force is moving on, and the young bloods are coming. So thank you for the time. I hope that we can turn this negative to a positive as we open the doors to our schools, creating some more traffic safety initiatives as well as safety initiatives for our entire community. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, sir. And again, I would reiterate that it was not anything done maliciously on this. It was a matter of trying to get things expedited to get somebody in place.
I think too, Mr. Chairman, if I can, I mean, the DOE has said it, I think I work it, I feel it. We have a very time-consuming and a very complicated way of doing our governance. It works. You know, I've been told since 2008, 2009, maybe 2010, everything starts with the Finance and Advisory Board, everything. In the last 4 years, I haven't even presented my budget as I did in the past to the Board of Selectmen, physically sitting before you with your crowded agenda, listening to me for an hour and a half on the police budget, because I do it at the FinCom meeting. Everything starts at the FinCom meeting. That's been my premise. I have to garner support there, then I bring it to this board. The money's there. So I mean, yeah, it's process, but it's complicated, and I think that timing, Mr. Fowler, you know, traffic initiatives, sitting dormant for 6 years. I have 10 traffic initiatives sitting dormant because of our process. Steve looked at Gary and said, well, if the traffic committee said so, we just got the traffic committee running a week ago. So we can't discuss things in a week, you know, so
I get it.
it's complicated. Thank you, sir.
All right, thank you. So, there's no
If I could
vote.
just ask you a
Yeah,
question.
yeah,
Yeah.
sure, I was gonna,
So,
more process.
Just for clarification in terms of the funds for this position, so it's from the state, plus we will need some from another source, or no?
No, not that I'm aware of. Mike can
Yes,
answer that. Go ahead.
Yeah,
Mike.
we probably will. And the finance committee discussed that. It could be from some marijuana revenue. It could be from their own reserve fund. Or it could be, those are in worst case scenario, it would come out of the police budget too. It's $100,000 a year position.
But can we back up? So this is $100,000 a year position, the SRO, I thought it was 60.
What happens in Georgetown is the budget itself, the allocation of the budget is a person's salary. Fringe benefit is not in the police department budget.
Okay.
So, we usually aside 30% for a fringe above and beyond.
So there's your 90, all right.
You
Okay,
know,
I mean,
and
I'm
also
there.
too,
Yeah.
I think that, you know, if we're gonna get to the nuts and bolts of it, there are a lot of moving pieces. Someone elects to take the town insurance, someone doesn't. You know, every year, we see those figures during our finance meetings, how many people have expended that funding, or they've gone elsewhere. I mean, it's a moving target. I don't know the number. I know what my number is for the salary of that individual, which is in my budget.
It's about 60.
Right, but I'm kicking in the rest through the reserve officer fund, because I'm gonna be eliminating some of those day shifts, well, a lot of those day shifts, to pay that person to be here. I put $9,000 on the table during the finance and advisory for ALP protection. It never made it to the table, and now we're spending that money.
Yeah.
And if we had been, with some foresight, we would have already allocated that funding, and it would be spent more wisely.
Yeah, got it.
It's still tax dollars.
Okay. Because when we first approached it was to use the money from the supplemental or the governor's budget, right? That additional 60. We're not really discussed the healthy farms.
That's
piece of
gonna
it.
pay the
wages.
salary.
Yeah, right, so it's the bennies that we may have to take out of the reserve fund, and the FinCom's well aware of that, right? Or
Yes.
free cash, or wherever that comes from.
Yes.
Okay, got it. That answers the question,
Or
Steve?
transfer, line item transfers.
Right,
at the
from,
end of
from
the
where
year.
we're down on one and up on another, we just use
Yeah.
that money. Okay, got it. All right, so I think from a process perspective here is that the only way that this gets funded would be in the fall town meeting with a warrant article,
Correct.
which will have a bunch of other stuff in it too, not just this piece.
It's too early to tell right now.
Right, because it could have other stuff in it.
Yes.
Okay. So, that being said, that's the only thing that we vote on as a board. That's our only
Yeah.
responsibility in all of this.
So
to be
just a
honest.
quick point, then, if we don't have an agreement then by the fall town meeting, then we have to take that off the table.
If it doesn't get voted, then the chief has to adjust his budget, which would mean layoffs. Period.
Well, the thing is, if
Or another funding mechanism.
I'm just saying, if the hosting agreement isn't finalized by the fall town meeting,
Well, I
hopefully
think that
it
though
will.
the 60,000 is what we're looking at.
Yeah, we're looking at the
talking
60
about.
from the, we're definitely getting that money from the
Okay.
state, right? That's 60.
No, and the finance committee is well aware that even if the marijuana, you know, they have to get their seeds planted and growing so they can start selling by the first of the year. That's kind of their target, I believe. So the earliest we'll see any marijuana money is 60 days after the first quarter of operation. So if they start January 1, quarter is March 1,
Yeah, they're looking at
60
March.
days, it's June.
Right, we're not
They're
gonna see
looking
this
at March.
money.
So-
That's
Right.
gonna only be maybe $25,000.
Right, it's gonna be in the next budget. It's not gonna be in this budget cycle,
We haven't
most likely.
budgeted for it, for the revenue.
Right, right.
But they have committed to, doing transfers, from reserve or line items.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, that's fine. I mean, as long as we don't have to go to default town meeting and ask for money.
We're not gonna ask for money, it's just a matter of
Well,
appropriating.
you have to
We have the money,
appropriate,
it just has to be appropriated.
you have to raise and appropriate $60,000
I understand that, yeah.
for the
Respect the
police
hosting agreement.
personnel
Right.
line item.
Right, right. Putting the hosting agreement aside, because I didn't even consider that
Right.
for this position. My mind was the 60,000, and that's what we were gonna use to fund this position. But I didn't even include the hosting agreement, wasn't even in my thought process when I talked about it. So, we would just have to, again, as any other appropriations or adjustments to the budget, would do this at fall town meeting. And I didn't even include anything from the marijuana sales, to be honest. So, but I didn't realize about the benefits, but that would have to come out of, unless we have an employee, when we're down on an employee, we're not paying benefits. We just don't know until we get there.
Right.
Right. It's all in the whole budget. Gary?
I'd like to talk about the 60,000.
Mhm.
And the fact that I'm disappointed that this board until tonight hasn't discussed it as a board. We haven't been made aware of it, that it's there, other than a phone call from.
No, that was,
Okay.
no,
Public
that
meeting,
was,
yeah.
we got an email from Mike saying we got this extra 60,000. We got
All
communicated
the
that the
emails,
budget,
all the emails don't always get copied to me, and besides that, we usually talk about it at the board. These are things that Mike usually updates on this.
well, he did.
We haven't got
We did,
that,
Gary.
we haven't got that
This is the
update.
first meeting since the budget was passed by the state.
So now, I'd like to go to the budget, and I wanna remind people, this is somewhat what I told you on the phone. I don't look at this as an extra $60,000 that the state has given us. We used free cash last year to balance that budget. So we actually had a shortfall on our budget, I would say, going forward. Do you remember what the free cash amount was, Mike? I was trying to find it today, the best I've got here, and this is from, Finance Committee, this is I got this 3/19/16 when we were going over it, and you were at that point looking at putting 300,000 of free cash into the budget. I don't think it was that high.
No, and
But-
Gary, I apologize, but I don't know, I don't remember the,
Yeah, and I couldn't find it, as I say, I
It was a
couldn't
lot less
find
than
it
that.
neither.
It was
A lot
under
less.
100, right?
Yeah, it was a lot less.
But still,
That's what we're.
I look at that as, that 60K would just go towards evening that off. I mean, that's not an extra 60,000. We pulled 50,000 out of the stabilization fund. There are other things that we did not fund, that we could have been funding. So this isn't some free gift from heaven.
No, it's-
Our budget, I still don't look at our last year's budget as being balanced when you do it with free cash. When, I think that's only the second time, if I remember correctly, I heard that this town has balanced the budget with free cash. And now I do understand, Mike did make it clear at Finance Committee that some towns do it all the time, but it's not been a history of what this town has done. So I just look at that as equaling it out, not as being an extra 60,000 that we got. So that's where I am on that. And there's other things that we could have, and I'm sorry, yes, some of it falls to us, but it also falls to the Finance Committee. Chief was very clear, he's asked for this over and over, and this town has put on many other employees in the past. I wasn't happy then when that happened either. Because every time you put on that employee, it makes next year's budget being even
Structural,
harder. So
right.
next year's budget is now gonna be added, we were short this year, had to use free cash, and now we're just adding another $100,000 to next year's budget. Where are we gonna get that $100,000 next year? Now, we may all think we know where it's coming from,
Right.
but, I'm sorry, I heard a lot of laughter over there when they were hearing some figures putting out, and you know,
Yeah, I'm not
that's
gonna
like,
go there.
that's like, I'm fully in support of the school resource officer if we get some funds from them. I'd be happy to say it'd be the first thing to do. I think it would be the most prudent thing to do. But until that's there, I wouldn't run my household budget like that. I wouldn't spend money that I don't have, that I think is coming in. I mean, I could go out and buy a lottery ticket, write town of Georgetown on it. Do you wanna spend that money, thinking that it might hit? Because that's basically, I think, what we're doing if we're talking that hosting agreement. So, I got off track, but let me stick to the 60,000. I don't see that as extra money. And I wish that I had had the opportunity to sit in front of the Finance Committee and tell them that also.
Okay. Point well taken. I don't disagree with some of your points, being honest. Agreed. Well, we are where we are now, though. That's the point, right? I mean, we've already hired the individual, we're not,
No,
moving backwards.
because we haven't appointed.
But
I-
that person's already an appointed police officer, no?
Reserve.
Reserve.
But if I have the letter right from the chief, I thought he was asking for, I don't think you were asking for it tonight, but that's the way the letter was somewhat worded.
I was hoping I'd get an appointment for an officer tonight, and that was my mission.
Yeah,
I
so-
think that, given the start of school is the 29th, been through the assessment. The assessment included, to save money, I did a second assessment for the retirement in March, with a conditional offer starting on or after February, for the second officer that was hired. That has not come to your attention because it's 5 months out.
If I could address that point?
Sure.
There's, later on tonight, I think if we get there, David, we've got some transfers.
Yep.
Some line item transfers, and one of them is to do with the, I think it's the inspection services salary. I think it's, I could be wrong on which one it is, but it's $3,000. Now, there's another fund that we didn't account. We started a fund for that purpose, correct? We started I don't know if it was a revolving account, was that the accrued liabilities fund?
Yes.
Okay, but we haven't funded it. I mean, we only fund it when we think that something's coming. So there's just another fund that could have been funded, and when this thing here, we got one time uninspected retirement, another unexpected retirement, and they're both non-funded because we got an account that when we do the budget, we don't have the money in it to put it in here. So there's just another point of, our budget's not balanced.
You confused me on that one. We never created an accrued vacation account, did we?
Yes, we did.
Yeah,
Did
we
we?
do.
Okay.
But
We do the-
we funded it,
At zero,
When we knew Mulligan was going on, I think we did it.
did we?
and we had two, school retirements this year. We funded it this year.
Yeah, you put, I think, $13,000 in it,
All right.
or 16, something to that.
19,000.
Okay, yeah, we did fund it what we expected, but we could also, there's something that we could be, there's an account that we've got that we could be putting some cash in, and when these things come up, we're not searching, we've got an account to take the money out of.
Right.
But you can't do it if you don't have the funds to fund it, and you're not gonna have the funds to fund it if you keep hiring employees.
If I could,
Sure, Steve.
just one more, comment. So, I mean, I agree with you, Gary, in terms of, you know, it isn't free money. And that I think we all know, right? Cause we've always, I mean, it's been consistently, we've been in the hole, and then we come out a little bit, then we're in the hole, and then we're in the hole again, we go deeper and deeper.
Not to the
But-
budget meetings I've been to, but go ahead. I'm
No,
sorry.
so in terms of the budget, right, so we're in a negative position now. Correct?
I would say we are this year,
Right.
yes, cause we had to use free cash.
Right.
So, yes, I would say
Right.
that we are.
So with that said, though, I think to me that there are some things, you know, you can't put a dollar on, right? And I think that's our kids in the community, and we've seen, you know, the horror in other cities and towns that's been going on in school systems. And I understand that it's not only for the schools, there's gonna be other areas, but that is such a huge part of our town, is the kids in town. And I would, you know, personally, I don't think it's worth arguing about for $60,000. Again, for me, it's more the process that I was a little upset with.
Yep.
But just the principle of the fact that we didn't have the money as of a few weeks ago, right? So we were in the same position that we were after our spring meeting. So to get an opportunity like this to actually be able to protect the kids, protect the park, that's why I was in favor of it. And I know it may not be financially prudent, but it isn't a huge amount for the budget. It's not, I mean, it isn't gonna put us over the top.
I agree, and I think that the townspeople voted the budget knowing that 60, but I don't wanna say 60,000 was the free cash number we used to balance the budget. And what
Coming
kind
up
of,
with it now.
what kind of messed us up on that was the fire truck payment not coming out of, again, I wanna go back, I'm just trying to do this from, you know, just my, whatever's left in my brain matter, but, that we did not take the fire truck payment out of the, stab fund like we had in the past. So that's what kind of forced us to use some of the free cash. So some of it was just maneuvering, you know, stuff that we, you know, a line item that we'd have taken out of another place. That's why we use free cash for it. So I don't think we were in a structural deficit, to be honest. I don't know. I'd have to go back and really look at the numbers and evaluate that. But the point is, I think this was done with it, hey, you know what, we really need this school resource officer. We're gonna, and as a matter of fact, you know, we're getting an additional 60,000 in state aid. That number could be 100,000 higher next year. We don't know. It could be 30,000 less. It could be less or it could be more. I mean, it seems to be increasing every year as the economy has done well and the state's done well. I mean, this is above and beyond what we originally projected. So again, it's a crapshoot every year, with all due respect. It is a crapshoot every single year. We plug in a state aid number. We don't know if it's gonna be higher, lower, it's an, you know,
That
so.
I agree with.
So we have to balance the budget in terms of that without really affecting the services that we provide to the town. As far as retirements go, you know, sometimes that's tough to predict. You can't, you know, again, maybe we should do a little bit better on the accrual. But my point is, the state aid next year could be $200,000 higher. We don't know. And every year it's a crapshoot. So, you know, again, I think we used that free cash because of a little maneuvering that we had done with where we were taking some payments for some debt.
So Dave,
I
That's
have
just
that.
coming back to me.
No, I have that answer.
All right.
It was $174,590, and it was, my recollection is the finance committee added it to reduce the cuts to the school budget.
Okay, then I that I don't have it straight in my mind then,
Yeah,
okay?
if there was talk about second grade teachers and things of that sort, I remember but it wasn't to reduce it, it was the amount that they increased it.
Yeah, reduce the,
Yeah, it didn't get reduced, it got increased.
Yeah.
Okay, Steve had a comment.
So if it's the pleasure of the board, I'd be in favor of making an appointment tonight. I don't know what other members think, but
Well,
I think we just have to put this one behind us.
Yeah, that's,
Chalk it up.
yeah.
I'm still pretty infuriated about finding out via a newspaper article and post in Facebook by this, and sitting and saying, thinking that the, again, process
Right.
on the Board of Selectmen was bypassed. And on the same hand, I just can't, we've already had deaths in the community from overdoses. And I can't, I don't know that I can see punishing the police department because the Board of Selectmen process was subverted by the Board of Selectmen.
I don't think it was subverted, it was just, it
Well,
was just messy.
It was like an end run around it, in a way, because we never really discussed it, but I just don't wanna keep beating that horse. I'm still upset by the way everything happened. Hearts were in the right place.
Right.
But going forward, this just can't happen again. And I'm hoping that when we do talk about goals, that we will set up a process where the Board of Selectmen, before they go out on their own and do things, will bring it to the Board of Selectmen first and get the full support of the board to go forward on it. I mean, you can get information to support it. I'm really, we've been put between a rock and a hard place. And
Well, I think,
I just can't because it's, I just can't see more kids. We've had 3 pretty big drug busts in the past 18 months. One at the end of it, up in my neighborhood. And we have a huge drug issue. And I saw with Dave Armstrong and the DARE program, I saw a marked difference in the way the kids interacted with the police department. And we've lost that.
Mhm.
But I just can't see any more kids. If we can prevent one, even one, then it's worth it. But I'm very disheartened by the process that took place. And yes, it was a mistake. I don't believe there was any malice intended. I don't believe it was an intended thing. It was an unexpected source of revenue.
Right.
That we got after Charlie Baker signed passed the budget. So that's where I am. I can tell you my displeasure is still very high, but I believe that our police department needs support and bolstering. And in a way, I look for things to be win-win. And that I think everybody should get a piece of the pie. And you know what? If we gotta bite the bullet, then we gotta bite the bullet. But I don't ever wanna see something like this happen again, while we're on this board during our tenure. And that if we have ideas, then we submit them to the board for board discussion before we go forward with it. Thanks.
all right, and I think part of the exercise of the goals is to put everybody, on the same page on what each individual selectman is working on. So I think that's the start of that communication piece. So, everybody has different things that they wanna work on, and everybody understands where, what those goals are for each individual. So I think that'll help to start to, keep the lines of communication open. All right. I mean, I'm fully, ready to vote on appointing a SRO tonight. I have no problem with that. There's still another piece of this that I'll remind the board that we have to also do, funding mechanism as part of fall town meeting, and whether that's, Mike will have that. There could be other stuff too that, would be part of it, so. All right, so, if that's the case, I think we've all pretty much, give anybody more opportunity to discuss this issue. I think we've kind of beat this and, point well taken, so when we go forward, we'll do things, again, more as a team, and, again, there was no malice intended whatsoever in this whole process, so. All right, so that being said, anybody else adding more discussion to the process? If not, then I'd like to move forward with, do you have a specific appointment, Chief, with a specific name that was been submitted?
And if I may, Mr. Chairman, it would be better in the appointment, it would be a normal appointment of a full-time police officer as opposed to the assignment of SRO.
Okay.
Because the SRO portion is a memorandum of understanding between my office and the superintendent.
Okay.
So that we keep the latitude of utilizing that officer off school day for our intended purposes of traffic, drug interdiction, and the like, so.
So
His
the
name is
motion.
Henry Olszewski.
Henry Olszewski.
We have a letter in our packet.
Yeah,
Yes, I think I did a
thought we
personnel
had
order.
that. Okay. All right, so I'd entertain a motion to appoint Henry
Olszewski.
Olszewski as a full-time police officer with the term to expire June 30th, 2019.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any other discussion on the motion?
Can I?
Yes, sir.
I wanted a little before you asked the chief. And sometimes you get into, I've supported things in the past when I don't think they're in the best, but if I can bring up, when I did that 2.5 years ago, I talked about trying to get more budget support for capital projects, capital committee. It's on my goals that you asked us about.
Yep.
We've talked about it, trying to get together. It was in the DOR report that we should be meeting more regularly with Finance Committee going forward, so that things of this sort, I guess it would have a better process. So will we go down that road, Mr. Chair?
If that's the will and pleasure of this board, absolutely. So I think in relation to what's the motion and the second,
Well,
the discussion.
it's relates as to my vote. That's, you know.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean,
Sometimes
listen, the more efficient we can be, the better. And again,
it would be best to have a unanimous vote to bring on a new police officer,
Well, I
I
appreciate that.
believe.
Yeah.
But,
Yeah.
sometimes you negotiate amongst ourselves, just like with others.
Mhm.
So I hope that we can go down that road at some point, Mr. Chair,
Listen, if
and the
that-
rest of the board.
Yeah, if that makes the process and the lines of communication better, then we're all for it. And I think, and again, I kind of take responsibility, well, not kind of, I'll take responsibility for only having one meeting during the month, and maybe that was a mistake. Because I don't think we would've got ourselves into the situation that we're in if we had a second meeting.
Yeah,
And
I can agree with you there also, David.
So, lesson learned. I mean, in order to, again, having one meeting was for the, so that people could enjoy the summer and everything. So maybe maybe we shouldn't do that, going forward. But that may be another chairman's problem, not mine. So, that being said, any further discussion on the motion? Hearing none, all those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Unanimous. Chief, congratulations.
Thank you.
We got there.
Appreciate it. Appreciate the support.
Thank you, Steve. Thank you, Joe. Thank you. Long time come, thank you. Thank you, Mike. And as always, Janet.
Okay, going which way? This way? I'm going back that way. All right, so we have a
My
lot.
services anymore tonight.
Yeah, there might be one more thing. Just American Legion Park, real quick.
I'll do it.
Can we just?
Bouchard's appointment.
Yeah, and the crossing guard.
Bouchard's appointment.
Well, while we're on appointments, let's talk rather quickly. I think there was some pre-work done on this, so maybe we can hold the discussion, but, reappoint Joe Bouchard, as a school crossing guard. with a term to expire June 30th, 2017. Anybody want to make that?
So moved.
We have a second?
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion on the motion? Hearing none, all those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Good. All right, now, let's just talk about American Legion Park real quick. Just a quick update, you know, I've been swinging by there on the weekends just to see how things are going.
I have two.
Have things improved?
I think they have, Mr. Chairman, and what I've done is, there have been, since we've identified specific target areas and problems, we've had hourly patrols, and what the patrols are doing is we're actually keeping data, and then we, at your request, have put officers down there on the weekends. We're actually collecting population data down there to see when the facilities are being utilized so that we can work with the Park and Rec moving forward, not legislative and all those things we need, but what the facility is being used for, who's down there, and things like that, so that when we come out with a definitive plan with this, I call it another new position, although it's a partial, to deal with our public places, because we have other parks we want to protect too, and I think all encompassing will do that. But it has improved. The communications have improved. I met with the Park and Rec, the entire committee in my office for almost 3 hours last week. A lot of misnomer on Facebook, a lot of bad information that people have about what we have been dealing with. Some of it, you know, there's been some excitable descriptions as to what's going on down there. There's been some reality. We're trying to get it together, so I think we're moving in a positive direction. And they've hired some personnel too, and they're working with my staff. So I think when we come in the fall, I think it should be a priority of my department, your board, and Park and Rec to get this legislative piece fixed. We have our new facility on East Main Street we need to make sure that we include. We have the West Street soccer fields, we have our Veterans Park. Those are all part of our park, and we want to make sure that we have some good legislation in place so that we can enforce it for you.
Right, I did attend the Parks and Rec meeting, well, was it maybe 2 or 3 weeks ago? Doug was there too. Was it? And I said to them that I requested that they come in in September to talk about the legislative piece of this and the rules and regs, because they do a great job of putting everything online and providing.
Fantastic job.
Awesome job. But there has to be a piece of that says, you know, this is what we do at this park. This is what's allowed. I know we have, there's a dog park behind the church, and we don't even know if it's open yet, but people are using it. See, so these are the things that, again, we need to nail down so that there's enforcement and there's your ability to enforce the law that we establish universally without any discrimination towards any group or any person.
Permitting, make sure the permitting's proper.
You know, we just can't have events showing up at a park without a proper permit. Who's gonna issue that permit? What are the rules, you know?
Finances, I think we need to discuss finances, how we deal with the financial piece.
Yeah, all that. So I've asked
This is
them
not a
to-
cost-effective way what we're doing right now. And I think what we'll do is as the summer winds down, we'll take a look at what our exit strategy is, so to speak. But keep in mind that the current police protection that you pay for today, hourly checks are occurring, and it has reduced the number of complaints. They're going down there, they're getting out of the cars. I put it in the schedule, it needs to be done. It's important. It's an important piece.
Again, getting back to that other, we need to have this committee within the committee to work with the chief and work with us to have the proper rules put in place.
I mean, if we could set a timeline, we meaning the entire group, to bring forth something for town meeting,
Yeah.
even if it's to update the regulations that are in place right now that our attorneys have said are okay
Yep.
For the enforcement piece. Maybe if it's fall town, I don't know when the best
Oh, we
time
need
to
to
do
get
that,
moving
spring
on it.
town meeting, fall town, you can choose that, but maybe if we don't set a timeline on something, we know this, it never gets done, so maybe if we
Right.
can,
Well, we
we can
gotta
say,
be-
let's get it done by
It's gotta
September.
be in place for next season.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. And not only just that park, there's other parks.
Right.
Mhm.
Right? What about the skate park, the
Right.
dog park?
We have a lot going on.
Right. So, I will, we'll get them in, probably the second meeting in September, Mike. Can we maybe invite them in so we can have a discussion about where they're at with that, try to establish some rules and regs and having somebody look at the bylaws along with the chief. Because this
I'll be
is
there.
way overdue. We need to
Mhm.
get this done, so. All right, chief, thank you.
All right,
I think
thank
we're
you.
good for tonight.
Thank you, Chief.
Thanks.
Again.
If I could say something? Mr.
Oh, sure.
Chair? Yeah,
Good.
just, I mean.
Sit back down.
It's solutions to the problems, and, in a way, look at it with the new, what's gonna be opening up. It's a wonderful, in a way, problem to have right now.
Oh, yeah, it's,
Absolutely.
there
We've
was,
got these
right.
new facilities coming online, so.
Right.
it-
right, they're doing a
yeah.
great job of, you know,
So we'll get the solutions.
great.
And I am excited about the traffic committee. I want to thank Selectman Fowler for taking the lead on that. We have a lot of initiatives that are going to come before this board and possibly town meeting for some legislative change in rezoning our downtown area from a traffic and parking perspective, because enforcement again, but more solutions to what we've seen in the last 6 years now, where our businesses have changed, and so I applaud that, and my people are involved in it. I've come to the meeting
You-
as well, and we've all vetted our grievances, so hopefully we can move forward, you know?
All right, great.
All right,
All right,
thank
chief,
you.
thank you. All right, so we have the warrant to be signed. If you haven't signed that, taking a look at that, please take care of that. We have a request from Tin Lizzie's Bar and Grill for a Keno license. We have to vote on that tonight, Mike, or Janet?
It's just a notice of,
Okay, so
the
that's,
request for one, so it's just, if we are not, if the board is not in favor, we have to let them know.
okay. Anybody not in
Keno
favor
at
of allowing them
Richdale
to?
already, I think.
Yeah. Anybody not in favor, so we can just pass that, no vote required, unless there's opposition, okay. I got notice from the town clerk of the resignation of Jim Lacy from the FinCom and the school building committee. I mean, there's nobody else in town that has been on more committees than Jim Lacy. You know, great job, Jim, thank you for all of your service, and we still expect you to see you around, and
Well, we should place him on retainer.
you're right. So, again, thank you for your
He is still on
service, Jim.
Economic Development Committee.
Okay, good.
And
Yeah.
Kent Dennison.
And he's still
Yeah,
on
Camp
Camp Dennison, all right.
He's still busy.
All right, good, excellent. Speaking of that, by the way, we got an invitation to do some hot dog cooking. Everybody get an invitation to do that?
That's right, yeah.
Okay. Notice from town clerk of the resignation of George Perkins from the Historical Commission. George, thank you for your service. Did I see in his letter, he said he was on there for
Many years.
many years, many years? So thank you, George.
12 years he was on.
Yeah, thank you so much for your service. All right, the Spot would also, this is on the new business, the Spot Restaurant, they have a request to pledge their liquor license for us to approve that. Janet, again, with these liquor license things, and I question this, you know, what is it really worth in terms of being able to pledge it? But I guess it's all their restaurants, not just the Spot, right?
Right.
So we would have to give the approval on this particular, would they have to go to the state too?
Yes, it goes to the selectmen approve it, and then it goes.
Okay, so we have to approve or allow them to be able to pledge as security for a loan. And Joe, have you ever run into these?
Yeah.
Where they pledge, but we have open liquor licenses, so what would be the value of the liquor license?
I don't know.
I think it's probably more difficult to get, even though we have them, it might be more difficult to get one than one that's right there, and I suppose it goes with the business, correct?
Right, so they essentially wouldn't be able to operate the business unless they had a liquor
I
license.
thought that they might
I
have been.
think, you know, you have, you know, people that'll go to a bank just to actually buy a liquor license.
Right.
Or, you know, attain one. So what happens is, you know, there's a value that's put on based on, research, you know, done, you know, through other, communities, towns. Obviously, a liquor license in Boston is worth a lot more than a liquor license in Georgetown,
Right.
so.
Well, that
you
was
know,
my
the-
point.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so that's the thing, you just have to, you know, do some research on, you know, what liquor licenses are worth.
Maybe they do some type of income analysis
Yeah,
based
the
on
question
that, you know, based on having the license versus not. Okay.
The question that had come up in my mind was what effect it really has on the community. And I don't know if there is, they just, if they default, then they go out of business, basically.
Right. There's no financial piece in our, you know,
Right.
as far as we're concerned. All right. All right, so, anybody wanna make a motion on that?
Well, other than if they do go out of business, then it goes on tax line.
Well, somebody would still own the property, right?
Yeah,
They don't own the property, do they?
You have sales tax
No.
and stuff like that, no?
Just some sales tax. And liquor, the extra meals tax, but, all right, so, anybody wanna make a motion on that?
Mr. Chair, I move that we approve the spot pledging their liquor license for a loan from North Shore Bank.
Okay, do I have a second?
Second.
All right, we have a second. Any discussion on the motion? Hearing none, all those in favor? Aye.
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 Okay. All right, so we have some line item transfers. Mike, you want to go over these rather quickly?
Yes. Let me just get to them. So. Sorry.
Is it just this piece here to sign?
Yes.
I saw 3 tabs.
Okay, at year end, when we were closing out, FY sixteen, what happened was, the salaries were miscalculated in several of the, departments. That's why the selectmen's salary, conservation, zoning board, inspection, well, the inspection was, two things, miscalculation of, annual salaries, but also, when, our previous, inspector left, we had to pay out his, sick leave and vacation time.
Okay.
So that's the bulk of that.
Of the inspection services?
Yes, health department salaries, we had to hire a part-time person to cover for the illness of the agent. And when we actually used some money in the unemployment line item to cover, we had a huge excess of about $50,000, so we transferred that out. But when we got our last bill, it was $105 more than we anticipated. Same thing under other insurance and legal services. We had transferred a lot of money out of legal services, but when we got the final bill, we needed an extra $1771.61. So we had money that we also used to pay the last line item transfers in the short-term loan line item. There was still plenty of money in there, so that's where we're getting the 64,13,16 to transfer into these other line items.
All right. Any questions for Mike? All right, hearing none, let's make a motion.
Mr. Chair, I make a motion to make line item transfers as presented. Do I need to go through?
No,
each
I
one?
don't think
Second. No, that's good.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All right.
Okay. I'll have this one.
Okay, selectmen's report. Strategic planning update, Mike? Anything to update the board on?
The department heads are meeting in a, possibly as long as a day-long session on August 23rd, to add to the goals and objectives that were presented by the by our consultant in the draft report I passed out last meeting.
Yep. Okay.
So that was called for in as part of the process. So the departments were given that report, And they already have their mission statements they've developed in the past. And their goals and objectives need to be tied to the mission, which is tied to the vision.
Okay.
So that's what they'll be working on as a group on the 23rd.
And then when will we see the results of that?
Well, what used to be the steering committee, and it has a new name and a slightly new makeup, will then look at the input from the department heads. And actually, the plan is to go back to a public session with all the goals and objectives set, and have public input again.
Okay, good. All right, any questions for Mike on the strategic planning? All right, fall meeting dates, those are there for us, September 12th and 19th, October 17th and 24th, November 14th, 28th, December 12th, my God, December, we're talking about December already.
I know.
December 12th and 19th.
Now, I'd like to just ask on this.
Yep.
I understand December because that's a holiday, and then October, we have Columbus Day.
Right.
So, but do we need to have two meetings back to, when is Columbus Day?
The 12th usually, right around the 12th.
I was
Columbus
thinking
Day's
maybe
the actually the 10th of October this year.
The 10th?
Right, and I'm gonna be in Florida.
Yeah, it's
I'll be back.
On Columbus Day, right.
Yeah, I'll be there. So we're not.
So
meeting
in
anyways.
September, why are we meeting on the 19th if we have a meeting on the 12th?
Because-
Shouldn't we be meeting on the 26th?
Because I'm going to be at my International City Managers Association conference on the 26th.
Okay.
We can always use that, to clean up anything, if there's anything else pressing. We can have a meeting without Mike if we needed to, 26th.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, no, just because we had agreed on it
Back
like a
to
second
backs.
and fourth.
Right.
And I understand when holidays get involved in there and other stuff comes up, but I was just curious about
Okay.
about September.
All right, Town Administrator's Report. Mike, Senior Center.
Well, I think you know more about it than I do if you went on that tour.
Yeah, we did.
So
Joe
I
and
haven't,
Yeah. Gary and Doug, we were all there.
that's great, because I just got back at 4 o'clock this afternoon, so
Yeah.
I couldn't update you
I mean,
anymore.
Of what we've seen, it looks great. I mean, right, Joe? And
Okay,
hopefully
that's-
be done by
That's good.
when we were saying
Yeah,
Thanksgiving,
we're still,
but I don't know.
well, as soon as we get the kids back,
Yeah.
they can finish up.
Okay.
Um,
Go ahead.
And then as far as the Georgetown Connector is, Georgetown Connect reminder, I mentioned that briefly earlier in the meeting. The Georgetown Connect notification system is an automated telephone system that uses the power of the most universal of all communications tool, the telephone, to contact residents in a short period of time. The town can also contact residents on cell phones, text, and by email, if registered. The town of Georgetown uses the Georgetown Connect notification system to contact residents under several circumstances. We use it for emergency notifications, but we also use for community notifications and for information sharing with the public. As I stated earlier in the meeting, we don't have a lot of people signing up for it. We have actually more people asking to be removed than are signing up. So you can join this by going to our website and clicking on the Georgetown Connect and sign up for it. We're gonna ask the newspapers to do a little publicity on that too.
If I
It's
might.
valuable, especially in cases of emergencies. If people And I'm not even sure if, how they can opt out or in. There may be some options for them, but.
Have you gotten any feedback on why people would want to opt out? It seems like it's a pretty valuable service.
Because
It's
of the
exactly right.
non-emergency use of it.
Okay.
It's been the updates about the water lines and the water.
Oh, the hydrant flush,
Oh,
and I
that's-
think those are great, right? They get
And that's
brown
great
water,
news,
it's
but a
only
lot
'cause
of people
Yeah?
complaining.
Really? Wow.
It's just, yeah. Anyway, all right, well, we encourage everybody to participate, and it's a good communication tool, so.
If I might,
Sure.
there have been people that I've spoken with that didn't realize they had to sign up for it. They just thought it was an automatic thing. So maybe we need to readdress that and let them know that you need to sign up for it.
Some
Yeah,
numbers were.
We started with a database of phone numbers from the phone company, but so many people have cut, don't have landlines.
Right, their cell phones.
And a lot of the numbers were bad that we got from the phone company too.
Well, I'm ruining the day because I get them on my cell phone, I get them each line in the house, I get it in my email, I get text message.
But do people have cell phones, and they do, if there is an emergency and there's no, if the telephone lines are down, if you do get, if you have a cell phone, you could get a text, or you still could
Right.
get the notice. So, it could be helpful to people,
Right.
if they sign up, cause you can pick how you wanna be contacted, so.
Right.
You can do all of them, or just one or two, but
Right.
in an emergency where telephone lines are down, if you put your cell in there, you'll still get notice, so. That could be helpful in an emergency, hopefully we don't have any, but.
Right.
And so the other thing was, we're gonna be moving to electronic board meetings, right? Did I see
Yes.
that? So,
Yeah, I saw it.
when do we have to, should we swing by individually on that, or?
The, Danny from Novus Agenda was gonna contact, I sent them everybody's contact information, well, your emails, or phone numbers, and, he was gonna try to set something up with, either individually, whether you wanna come in and do it together, or, he can do a webinar, just, you can log on in your computer, send you a meeting notice, and people could log on from home, and you don't need a certain you can do it from your home computer, your cell phone, your iPad, and we do have the surfaces that everybody will have for the meetings afterwards.
Okay.
But you have a different log on, everybody will have a log on.
When do we expect to put that in play?
Soon, it's waiting for, I guess, I've been working on it for a little while.
Mhm.
Getting pretty comfortable with the back end of it, so, but it's no good if you guys don't know how to
Yeah,
use the front end.
as soon as you've completed the training, we can
Yeah.
go
Okay.
live.
Right, so has everybody been contacted yet? I saw an email, I don't know if, I thought it was from Janet though, that said somebody would be contacting us, but.
Yeah, I sent something out, cause he asked me to send something to you,
Right.
cause he didn't wanna cold call you, cause you figure he's a salesman or something.
Just gonna
Probably hang up on them.
Yeah, right, yeah. All right, so moving right along. Anything else, Mike?
No.
Okay, welcome back. Anyway, appointments and approvals. We have a request from Richie Williams for reappointment to the Economic Development Committee. His term to expire June 30th, 2017, so I'd entertain a motion to appoint Richie.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion to reappoint Richard Williams to the Economic Development Committee for the term to expire on June 30, 2017.
Is there a second?
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion on the motion? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, appointment to, a real sketchy character here. Phil Trapani, as a full-time member of the Historical Commission, term to expire June 30th, 2018. I guess I'd entertain that motion. Anybody want to make that motion real quick?
You said it, so moved.
Yeah, so moved. There we go. We got a
Discussion about this one.
We got a second?
Second.
Well, you live closer to him than I do, so let's see. All right, so we have a motion and a second. Any discussion on the motion? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, well, aye, okay.
Well, thank you, Phil.
Thanks, Phil. Thanks, Richie, too. Park and Rec appointments, we're gonna pass over until we have Parks and Recs come in and, give us a recommendation. We also have a request from the town clerk to approve the poll workers for the September 8th state primary. And that list is attached. Anybody wanna make a motion?
Mr. Chair, I vote that we approve the slate of poll workers for the upcoming state primary to be held on, is it September 8th?
Yes, it is. It's a Thursday.
On Thursday, September 8th, 2016. Do I need to say their name?
No, you don't need to say the names, as presented.
Second.
Second? All right, we have a second. Any discussion on the motion? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
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 All right.
Well, yeah, I would like to make it, because this is really a Thursday is kind of a weird day to have
Yes.
the polls. We usually have town elections on a Monday.
Yep.
And national elections on a Tuesday. Now we're having a primary on a Thursday.
Right.
Yeah, it's not the first time.
We need to get that out.
Yep. I'm sure Janet will put the sign out, right? Does she usually put out a sign?
We don't have things.
No.
Oh, yeah, when's that come from?
Yeah, when's our sign going in? Have we heard anything on that?
Oh,
We gotta
that's
finish
supposed
the
to get,
policy.
yeah, we have to finish the policy.
Yeah, where's the policy?
We took it out, this was.
Got a funny feeling that sign's gonna be up.
We do everything.
No, they keep delaying the sign.
Yeah. it's
Why?
been
They were not
delayed.
waiting on us for a policy, right?
No.
Okay.
Granite posts, I think that he
Right.
said were,
Yeah, the granite posts were delayed. They're not gonna be able to deliver them for several months.
Oh, really?
Okay.
so that's what they're waiting for, the posts.
All right, any new business to come before the Board of Selectmen tonight?
Yeah, I just wanted to update the board. So I had my first meeting with the Economic Development Committee. It's a great group there, so I think we should have a good time. We should get a lot done. Couple things that we've been working on. So Steve Brzezinski, he was actually going to contact the developer that was interested in the Kennedy property a while back, just to see if he has found another location, or, you know, if he's still interested, and if so, he would come in front of the committee to discuss.
Okay.
Also, there's off of Carlton Drive, the owners there were interested in sponsoring a welcome to Georgetown sign to advertise for their business, so we just gotta figure out the details to that. And then I actually had a conversation with the owners of the Little's Hill shops, to get their,
A little block of shop?
yeah, little block of shops, Little's Hills.
I didn't know we had a little shop in
Yeah, I
Hills
got-
Hill.
When did you
How did
have
that
something
happen?
It's getting late, can you tell I wanna go home?
How did that happen?
So, great feedback there. Those guys are interested in getting their place rented. They've had a whole lot of interest from people. There was a dentist was in, but that wasn't gonna work. Starbucks actually approached them to see if they'd put in a coffee. The big thing with them is the water consumption. So, like we all know, there's issues, but he's interested in creating a round table of other people in the town. So hopefully that'll be a good start towards us communicating with business owners and getting everybody kind of on the same page and heading in the right direction.
Good.
So
Okay, great.
it's good.
All right, thank you for that update. All right, anything else before we adjourn? All right, entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
I
Aye.
All right.
Good night, everybody. See that, 10 o'clock, got you done.